One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet whom millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president. Illegitimate president. Illegitimate president. I believe that the president of these United States can be indicted for criminal offenses. I will be shining a bright light into every dark corner of his real estate dealings. And I say one name, Donald Trump. That should motivate you. Get off your ass and vote.
Will you sue him for us?
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. This case has never been about politics, personal vendetta, or about name-calling. And that is why I will be honored when I walk into that courtroom on October 2nd. Well, my role is civil. But I will come back before you soon with a check for $250 million. And to let you know that he is no longer allowed to do business in the state of New York. Yeah, we've got a special charge to show up and stand up for one another. And we have been working both in my office and with other Democratic AGs across this country to make sure that we would be ready to respond to any attempt to roll back our rights. So here we are. We've studied their platforms. We've identified certain possibilities, fact patterns. We've created contingency plans. So no matter what the next administration throws at us, we're ready. We're ready to respond to their attacks. We're ready to respond to any attempts to cut or eliminate any funding to the great state of New York, as the governor outlined. So despite what has happened on the national stage, we will continue to stand tall in the face of injustice, revenge, or retribution. We will continue to protect and our most vulnerable and marginalized amongst us, because it is my sworn duty and responsibility to lead that fight, working with the governor of this great state, Kathy Hochul. This is not the time to be fearful, New York, but faithful and steadfast, knowing that I, as the Attorney General, along with my entire team, we are guardians of the law, and we are prepared, my friends, to fight back.
You do what you gotta do.
Yes, as Mr. Soprano said, you gotta do what you gotta do, because it's on now. It is most assuredly on, as most of you are probably already aware, and if you're not, let me tell you, the appellate court in, I think, New York, has said that the fine, the $500 million fine, which includes the interest, is nada. It's not, no, you don't get it, Letitia. No, you don't get to go back to New York with a $200 million check. You get nothing. You do not pass go. Now, I'm sure they will come back and try to get some sort of a fine, maybe $1 million, maybe $5 million, whatever you need, Letitia. He's coming for you. Now, next one up in the barrel has got to be Judge Merchan and all the stuff that he did. But one by one, I am sick and tired and never will again accept any of these panicans, these MAGA Confederates who are out there saying nothing's happening. Pam Bondi is kicking ass and taking names. She is basically at this point like 25-0. Every single appeal thus far has struck down everything these lawfare-oriented Democrats have put in front of her. My gosh, I have never seen this kind of a roll. You guys remember back, if you're trying to figure out like how these people must feel. Well, put this shoe on the other foot. When all this was happening, we were down. We were worrying. We're like, how can this be happening? Now these people on the left have no light. There is nothing there for them. They have been beaten at every turn, and I'm not getting cocky. There's no way I'm getting cocky, because unlike a lot of people on the right and a lot of YouTubers,
we're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning, and you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
Get all the fat ladies singing right now. I want more. I am not satiated. I want to take these people down, all the way down. Go for the throat. Retribution time, well, it's been upon us, but now you're seeing it even more so. He is destroying, piece by piece, the Democrat Party. Absolutely destroying them. And for one, I'm here for it. I am so here for it. So President Trump this morning, after hearing the news himself, he took, obviously, to Truth Social. He wanted to make sure, people heard from the President of the United States, and especially in this regard. And his first post at 11:57, when it happened, was very simple. A great win for America. But he wasn't done. Because the next post, which took two posts of equal length, which were huge, were these two posts. He came up with this one first, and it's a it's a doozy. I mean, wow. Total victory in the fake New York State Attorney General Letitia James case. I would ordinarily not spend the time to read something this long, but this is a warning. He fired it across the bow. No, he didn't fire it across the bow. He hit the target. I greatly respect the fact that the court had the courage to throw out this unlawful and disgraceful decision that was hurting business all throughout New York State. Others were afraid to do business there. Very true. The amount, including interest and penalties, was over $550 million. Let me stop there for a second. Because what you're going to hear, I've got one cut, I'm sure it's going to be the same in a number of different instances as well. People are going to say this isn't a big win for Trump. He was still found liable or guilty or whatever you want to say. I don't know where they come from, but if I don't have to pay somebody $550 million, that's one big ass win. There's no undercutting the fact that you don't have to pay $550 million. There's no way you can tamp down the enthusiasm of somebody who had a $550 million anvil sitting on their head. So you at MSNBC, and I think the one I have for you is on MSNBC, who are like, it's not that big of a deal. What, really? Really? All of a sudden, he doesn't have to pay $550 million, and you're out here saying it doesn't really mean anything. Get out of here! All right, so it was a political witch hunt in a business sense, the likes of which no one has ever seen before. This was a case of election interference by the city and state trying to show legally that I did things that were wrong when in fact everything I did was absolutely correct and even perfect. Every single dollar was thrown out, even the penalties imposed by the corrupt judge. One of the most overturned in history, Arthur Engoron. If you go back and look at his history, you can say whatever you want on the bench, but it always gets overturned. And the sad part about it is you have to have the money to fight it. These people in some of these courts are so used to having defendants that can't fight them. And they've got away with so much in so many jurisdictions across the country because the people that they impugned could not fight back. Unfortunately, they picked a fight with the wrong guy. That's their biggest problem at this point. I wasn't given a jury, and during the course of the trial, which lasted a long time, was not given one ruling in my favor by this political hack. But worse than him, if that's possible, was Big Letty, a corrupt and incompetent attorney general who only brought this case in order to hurt me politically. She's going to have a hard time proving otherwise because there's so much video, some of which I just showed you, that said, elect me, I'll go take him down. So it's obviously political in nature. They made me bond the outrageous sum, which never happened before, cost me $1 million a month. Millions of dollars a month. All right, so he's setting up this lawsuit against New York because he had to put up a bond, and he got a company to put the bond up. And that doesn't come free, especially a bond worth $550 million. So he had to pay the interest and the fees associated with that bond. I wouldn't be surprised if he turns around and sues them for $550 million. Complete turnabout, complete retribution. Now you're going to pay me for what you put me through. I can't even imagine the zeros on the end of that lawsuit. It should never have been allowed to happen, and everyone knew it. Importantly, the vote was 5-0. I was so honored by Justice Friedman's great words of wisdom, which should be read by everyone. I would also like to thank the court for having the courage to make this decision, which is already going down as one of the worst business persecutions in the history of our country. Sadly, there are other cases against me that are equally disgraceful, including those headed up by corrupt judges like Juan Merchan, whose daughter collected millions of dollars in fees from Biden and Harris, while her father shockingly refused to recuse himself. So what you just read there was President Trump refilling the musket, and he's letting Merchan know, I'm pounding the shot into this musket, and I'm about to take you out. And Pam Bondi and crew are probably already looking at Judge Merchan's daughter. It's coming. It's not an if. It's definitely, most assuredly, a when. Himself, which is also under appeal, one in which every legal pundit in New York said there was no case. Even editorial board said, do not do this to Judge Merchan. And they gave me an unprecedented gag order, not letting me talk about him or his daughter or the fact that the appellate judges thought he should not even be doing the case, but he did it anyway. Judge Merchant, you're on the clock, bro. He's coming for you. He's coming for you. Judge Lewis Kaplan, the other remaining case whose wife, family, and friends attended his 2 trials, is as mean and nasty as anyone I've ever met. That case, also on appeal, should also never have been brought. He should be admonished for abuse and every other thing that can be thrown at a corrupt judge. Okay, let me highlight what he just said. And every other thing that can be thrown at a corrupt judge. Okay, Kaplan and Merchant, he's telling you right now, you should receive everything that can be thrown at you. That pretty much means you're probably about to see some people knocking on the door real soon. He loved the publicity and would not let us present the irrefutable evidence that we wanted to present. The Clinton-appointed judge should not be allowed to get away with the scam. That was post number 1. And then number 2, like literally a couple of minutes later, much shorter, these were all political trials in an effort to destroy my viability as a presidential candidate before, during, and after the election. They were strongly coordinated with the White House. There's a bit tidbit. So he's putting that out there. And will go down in history as one of the most corrupt cases ever brought. Why would it go down in history as one of the most corrupt cases ever brought? Well, the only way it could go down in history as a very corrupt case is for the corruption to be shown. Right now, it's not going to go down as a corrupt case. There has to be some sort of showing of evidence, some conclusion that this was one of the worst things ever. When you read between the lines, he's telling you everything. Everything. No hyperbole. These 2 cases are even more ridiculous than the corrupt Letitia James case, and will be found to be so in the very near future. There you go again. In the very near future. They're on it. And they're coming. All of these judges should be ashamed of themselves for allowing it to happen. They are political hacks who did everything possible to hurt me as a candidate. This was an attack by the Biden-Harris administration on their political opponent, me. It is such an honor to have withstood it, thrived, and even become President of the United States, despite the horrible things that were done to me. I'd like to thank and congratulate my son, Eric, and all the many people in the Trump organization that fought so strongly for justice. My legal team refused to give up against heavy odds. This is a great day for New York City and state. There were so many nuggets in there that foretell where this stuff is going. There's no doubt he's going after Merchant. He's going after Kaplan. He's definitely going after Big Letty. Big Letty, you might want to just go ahead and resign and take off. Take your millions. Do something. You're done. He's coming for you. You're the low-hanging fruit. You're very low-hanging. The judges are going to be tougher, but they're going to come for you. You know who's been very, very quiet? I haven't seen anything about this guy. Have you guys seen anything, even a press release from Alvin Bragg? What? Wonder what Alvin Bragg is up to right about now. Why is he so quiet? Letitia out there, she running her mouth every chance she get. Alvin, you ain't walking away free from this, bro. He's coming for you. And you might as well could you give a call to your friend down in Georgia? Yeah, Fanny, it's on. The Retribution tour is here. And I would not want to be any of these people caught up in this man's fury. Every single day he sat in that courtroom. Every single day he sat in that courtroom and he had that scowl. It was almost like, man, I can't. You don't even know what's going to happen when I get out of here. He posted something I can't really show you the music for because YouTube wouldn't let me. Maybe you guys can see it. But he posted this. It says, you have to. It's a rap song with him just looking like that, just with the scowl on his face. It's a rap song, and the rap song says, "All I do is win. All I do is win." And look at his face. That's on his profile. He put it there. All I do is win, baby. Let me see. It's only 10 seconds. I can probably tell you what some of the words are. Hold on. all I do is win, 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 no matter what. I got money on my mind. Oh, you guys got to go to True Social. I'll play it tonight if you don't see it. I can't play it here because they would just shut it down. But like all I do is win, win, win. Oh boy, it's coming. I got money on my mind. Oh, wow, I needed that. I definitely needed to hear that. So I'm doing a little babysitting because it's thundering. Hopefully everything goes well today because it's a thunderstorm going through here. So both dogs are like trying to get as close to me as possible because Dad, it's thundering here. Okay, so can you chill? And that's why if you see me keep looking down, it's because one or the other one has decided to climb all over me. Whew, man. What a day. What an amazing day. All right. You know, I woke up this morning, I'm like, I don't have really a whole lot to talk about. I mean, so I'm not really sure what I should be covering. And boom, everything went completely haywire. So let me talk to you real quick about Kimchi. If you guys haven't listened to me talk to you about Kimchi and Brightcore, now would be a good time. See, microplastics are infiltrating every part of our lives. Scientists estimate we now consume a credit card worth of plastic. A credit card's worth of plastic every single week through our food, water, and even the air we breathe. One study found plastic particles in 100% of human lung samples. Nobody is safe from this exposure. It gets worse. These plastics just don't sit in your body. They cross the gut lining and they leach into your blood and disrupt everything. They've been shown to alter your gut bacteria, suppress your immune response, and increase your risk for neurodegenerative disease, metabolic disorders, and cancer. Some plastic toxins like BPA and phthalates like mimic hormones interfere with your fertility and can damage DNA. So even if you eat clean or avoid packaged foods, you're still being exposed. You can't opt out, but your gut can help you fight back. By using Kimchi 1 from Brightcore Nutrition, which many of you guys have tried, it's a potential ally in this toxic world. It's packed with over 900 probiotic strains unique to kimchi and proven to break down BPA, helping you detox from the inside out. It doesn't just support your digestion, it helps protect your cells and your brain as well. Also, it helps your hormones and your future. Your body was never designed to handle microplastics, but your gut was designed to protect you. You just have to give it the right tools. So right now, you can get 25% off of Kimchi 1, as you see right there, with using the code BARRY at checkout. You get 25% off and just simply click the link or go to mybrightcore.com/Barry. Or for an even better deal, call them. Call them right there at that number, 888-418-6738, and you'll get up to 50% off your order. And they'll help educate you and answer all your questions. So give them a call now at 888-418-6738. All right, so now just to let you know, at 2:30 I've got an interview, and with that interview we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about the tariffs. We're going to be talking about the economy, all that stuff with Richard A. Stern, which I'll introduce you to him then. At 2 o'clock, which is in 5 minutes from now, if I can pull in the JD Vance speech that he's going to be making in Georgia, I'm going to try and do that as well. Might have like a slight delay because I'll have to stop and then pull it up and get it ready. So we'll look at doing that as well. So that's in about 5 minutes. So you know what I'm going to do? I am right now, before I get too far into my stuff, I'm going to tell you about what we can look at. Now I'm going to go to a break, get this configured so it's ready when JD Vance comes out. So give me 90 seconds here.
Back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
All right, so I'm all set when JD comes out. In the interim, let's take a few comments. I couldn't be happier that Trump won that one. Big Tish still needs to go to jail. Yes, I completely agree, and hopefully that's something that Pam Bondi is absolutely working on. Let's see. My dog is oblivious to Sunder. The cat, well, that's a totally different story. Yeah, both of them, the Chihuahua and the Maltese, both need to be, usually they're around mommy, but for some reason when I'm in here, it's quiet, I'm talking, they're hearing music and all kinds of stuff, so it kind of blocks it out, so they can, they're here. Here, Barry, I'd been wondering about Bragg also. Maybe he's the one ratting them out. Okay. Let's see here. What are we talking? Big Tish looked like the great pumpkin in the orange jumpsuit. Oh, that's too funny. Oh, shout out from Fort Lauderdale, somebody says. Well, how you doing down in Loudy? I hope your weather up here in Boca, we're getting kind of stormy, so let's see what happens here. All right, so I am waiting on JD to come out, and in the interim, I can continue with this is CNN and how they reacted to the information that the judgment is gone.
General's case for a long time. I'm on record saying that this is a huge win for Donald Trump any way you cut it, and this is a stinging rebuke to the Attorney General, Letitia James. The finding here, it's a very long, complicated ruling, but the bottom line is, while the finding of liability against Donald Trump can stand, for now at least, the damages award, which started at $350 million with interest, gets up close to $500 million, that is thrown out. And the core reason for that ruling, according to the judges, is essentially that there was not enough of a showing here that there were actual victims. And just to refresh people's memories, this is the civil fraud lawsuit brought by the Attorney General. The core allegation is that Donald Trump habitually overvalued his own assets when he was trying to get bank loans from banks and other lenders. And essentially, the argument that Donald Trump made below that has now had resonance in the appeals court is you're talking about very sophisticated, quote unquote, victims. These are billion-dollar banks that made the loans, got repaid on the loans by Donald Trump with interest, and actually profited to the tune of millions of dollars. So it's not the typical type of fraud case where you have somebody stealing money from other people or ripping off unknowing consumers. So this ruling by the appeals court is monumental. It was also very unusual in that it took them nearly a year to reach this decision. As Caitlin Polance just said, the next step is going to be to go up to the highest court in the state, the Court of Appeals in New York State.
All right, so even CNN, with long faces of Wolf Blitzer and some of the other people, they're all upset because it got tossed out. They understand what this means. This means when their guests come on TV, they can no longer keep saying, he's been fined $500 million, whatever. That's been taken off the table. The next thing to get taken off the table is this 34-count felony bull crap that they keep saying, and then they won't be able to say that. So now they can't say Russia, Russia, Russia. I don't know what happened in Russia last night. There were some sort of reports that there was some sort of bombing by Russia into Ukraine. SVNI, he tried to send me some links, and all of a sudden that story disappeared. There's like nothing there. So I don't know if that was BS with the deep state or somebody trying to start something. But they don't have anything else. Nothing else. People in Washington, D.C. are getting happy. They're feeling safe. And right now, I don't know what the Democrats can do. Doesn't mean they won't come and do something. Doesn't mean they won't try to be formidable. But now you have Missouri, who's also going to redistrict their voting districts, and that's going to give some more Republican seats. Texas finally got theirs approved last night. They're going to keep adding seats. And then you got Indiana, Florida. The Democrats are done. They're done. I mean, I'm standing here in August of 2025 wondering, how can any of these pollsters at all be trying to tell us that this thing is a close race? All right, so here comes JD. Let's listen to what he's got to say.
Now, here's the thing. We're at a great American facility. I want to thank these great workers behind me. I feel bad for these guys because they got to stand up the whole time I'm talking. You guys get to take a seat, and boys, strap in. because we're going to be up here for about 3 hours. You give a politician a microphone, and it's always tough. Boys and girls. We've got a few ladies back there, too. But here's the thing. This facility, this manufacturing plant represents what makes America great. Because the products that you build, the jobs created here, the ingenuity and the technology and the development and all the things that actually make America run are built right here at this incredible facility. So thank you to Alta, thank you to the workers, and thanks to the people who make this facility run. Now, I heard something before I went on, because there's this big refrigerator right behind me, right? And somebody told me it was 13 tons, is that right? That's a big refrigerator. Now, am I also right that a lot of the products that you guys make go into Chick-fil-A? Is that right? Okay, I know that's a great Atlanta company, but as a customer, a frequent customer at Chick-fil-A, I've got a personal connection because you guys make a great American company run, and that's what I love about this country. When you guys make a great product, it enables more great products to be made. That creates more jobs for our people, that creates more American innovation, and it creates more prosperity for the American worker. And I'm here, of course, as a representative of the President of the United States that has done more for the prosperity of the American worker than any president in a generation. So can we give it up for President Donald J. Trump, because I know he's watching. And I know what the president ran on, and what the president cares about is building things right here in the United States of America. It's another reason why I'm proud to be at Alta today. Because for a generation in this country, we had American presidents and American political leaders, and let's be honest, folks, it wasn't just Democrats, it was Democrats and Republicans who would ship our jobs overseas, close our factory doors, and do not a damn thing for the American worker. So how nice is it in Washington, D.C. to have a government that is going to protect your jobs, that's going to fight for this facility and say, very simply, if you're building it here, if you're making it here, if you're producing it here, we are going to give you, and already have given you, a big fat tax cut. That's a good thing. But if you make it overseas, if you try to do something with a foreign worker as opposed to an American worker, if you try to ship our great American jobs and great American factories overseas, then you are going to pay a big fat tariff before you bring that crap back into the United States of America. And that's what President Trump's economic policies are all about, my friends. It's the carrot and the stick. We want to make it easier to build in America. We want to make it harder to build overseas. We want to make it easier to rely on our great American workers because we got a lot of them. American businesses ought to employ American workers. And we want to make it harder to employ foreigners to take those jobs from the Americans who deserve them. And most importantly, if you're working hard every single day right here in the United States, or if you're building a business right here in the United States, you ought to have a tax code that rewards you instead of punishes you. And that's what happened when we passed the Working Families Tax Cut just a couple of months ago. And of course, Brian Jack was a critical part of that. So you should be proud of your congressman. Now, what does this law mean for you? What this law means for you is that your take-home pay is going to go up over $10,000 over the next few years. What that means is that if you're working an hour of overtime, the federal government is going to keep its money the hell out of your pocket. Because if you're working hard, the government ought to leave you alone. Ain't that the truth? Do we have any single moms out there? Any single dads? Any people who work hard every single day? I had a single mom, and for a time my mom worked at a restaurant. She waited tables, like a lot of folks out there. And you know what we did in this new law? We said that if you're working hard and you're making your income via tips, we are not going to tax tips anymore because we want to give everybody out there that's working hard for those tips a little bit of relief. And that's what the working families tax cut did. No matter where you are in this country, if you're working hard and play by the rules, you ought to have a government that stands up for you instead of fights against you. That's why we increased the child tax credit in the working families tax cut. That's why we eliminated taxes on overtime and on tips. And that's why we had the biggest tax cut for families that this country has ever seen, because we believe that you ought to keep more of your hard-earned money, and we believe that if you're busting your rear end every single day, the government ought to make it easier for you and not harder for you, and that's why we fought for that legislation. Now, I am just a vice president. I'm just a lowly politician, but I'm going to try my hand at prophecy today, ladies and gentlemen, because I see the future of the state of Georgia, and in about a year, you are not going to be able to turn on the television without Senator John Ossoff pretending that he supported the working families tax cut when in reality he voted against it. And I saw a TV clip of him today. You know why he said he voted against no taxes on overtimes? You know why he said he voted against no taxes on tips? You know why he said that he voted to raise your taxes by the biggest amount in a generation in this country? Because he's allegedly worried about people getting kicked off their health care. Well, you know what? The President of the United States made a promise, a sacred promise, that the only people who are going to lose access to health care are illegal aliens who shouldn't be in this country to begin with. Because I happen to believe that Medicaid belongs to American workers and American families. I happen to believe that when you are struggling in this country, we're generous people, and we want to help you. But we want to help the people who have the legal right to be in the United States of America. So it's not about kicking people off of health care. It's about kicking illegal aliens the hell out of this country so that we can preserve health care for the American families who need it. And that's what the Democrats never talk about. That's what they'll never tell you. They'll say, well, Republicans want to do this to health care. They want to do that. They want to do all these terrible things. When in reality, if you look at what the Democrats have done, what they've tried to do is to allow millions and millions of illegal aliens into this country, to give them benefits that ought go by right to American citizens, and then to attack Republicans when we dare to stand up for the American citizens who have the right to be here. So when you watch those TV commercials in a year, and John Ossoff, I tell you, he's going to pretend to be a reasonable moderate. He's actually going to run TV advertisements, I promise you, because I ran against a guy like this in the state of Ohio, where he says that he supported President Trump's agenda. But in reality, while John Ossoff pretends to be a moderate when he comes to Atlanta, he is a far left liberal in Washington, D.C., and that's the only place that it actually counts if you're a United States senator. So why don't we ask John Ossoff, why did you vote to raise taxes? Why did you vote to keep illegal aliens on Medicaid? Why did you vote to bankrupt Medicare? Why did you vote to make sure that people who work overtime and earn their income from tips pay as much to the federal government as possible? And the simple answer is because John Ossoff, whatever he pretends to be in his television commercials, he doesn't give a damn about the 3rd District, and he doesn't give a damn about the people of Georgia, but we do, and we're going to fight for you every single day. Let me just leave you, my friends, with a final thought. I want to thank you all for being out here, and again, thank the folks behind me, the great workers of this facility. And I'll take a few questions. Should I take a few questions from the media? Okay, I'll do that. So we'll take a few questions from our great reporters, hopefully some local reporters back there, but I'm sure some national fake news as well. But, you know, I went to Union Station in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Anybody here ever been to Union Station? Okay. It's a beautiful, beautiful building, really a monument to American greatness. I was walking around, I was looking up at it, these beautiful high ceilings. It looks like something out of a fairy tale. And I remember that 2 years ago, when I took my kids to Washington, D.C.'s Union Station, I actually had a crazy person screaming at my 3-year-old kid. Because for some reason, and I never understood this, American leaders decided it was compassionate to allow people to fester on the streets, yelling at our young families instead of giving them the medical care that they need and getting them off the streets. Which, by the way, makes it easier for us to all enjoy these great public spaces in our country. And I haven't been to Atlanta in a little while, at least now with the Secret Service detail. I haven't walked around Atlanta in a little while. But I bet that as great as Atlanta is, and as beautiful of an American city as it is, there are places in Atlanta where you wouldn't take your family today. Is that correct? Just like in Washington, D.C., the national capital of the greatest nation in the history of the world, there are no-go zones where you would not take a young family or you would not take young children. And that's true, I'm sure, all across the state of Georgia, all across our country, because our leaders decided that they would make our streets safe for criminals instead of safe for the people who pay our taxes and keep our communities going. And I think that of all the things that I'm most proud of the president, the thing that I'm most proud about is that he finally put the government to work for the people who actually make this country function and run in the first place. We're cutting taxes for American taxpayers. We're securing the border. We've got 99% reduction in illegal border crossings in this country because we got a president who empowered Border Patrol to keep us safe. And we got a president who's standing with law enforcement to make it easier to clean up our streets, to make them safe for our young families. If you're a person, I don't care what your political party is, but if you're a family and you want to take your kid to a nice meal in downtown Atlanta, it's about a 40-minute drive. Take your kid to a nice meal in downtown Atlanta, you ought to be able to without being harassed by a criminal. We got to take America's streets back for the American people, and that's what the President of the United States is doing every single day. And as a person who grew up in a family where we often struggled with money, you know, it is never the rich people that lack public safety in this country. When we go to war against our cops, when we flood the border with illegal immigration, when we close down great American factories, it is the people the Bible calls the least of us that struggle the most and hurt the most. So I'm proud to be here as your vice president. I'm proud to be here as a representative of President Trump. Thank you. But I'm most proud that we have an administration that is making it easier, whether you're rich or poor, to walk down the street with a semblance of public safety. I'm most proud that we're fighting for the jobs of the people behind me and the jobs of every single working person in this country, and we're fighting to make sure that you pay low taxes instead of a bunch of garbage to the federal government. I'm proud that we serve an administration that cares more about American citizens and our public safety than giving Medicaid and Medicare to illegal aliens, which is what John Ossoff wants to do. In other words, I'm proud that the kind of family that made me who I am finally has a representative and a fighter in Washington, D.C. I promise you, we'll keep on fighting for you every step of the way. God bless you, and thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. I don't think I'm going to get the same chant from the fake news media, do you? But we'll let them ask some questions anyway. Let's take a few questions back there from the rafters. I would prefer to take at least a few local media questions first, and then we can get to the national folks. Semper Fi, sir. God bless you. I think we have a microphone back there. If we could pass around. Sir, go ahead.
Mr. Vice President, I'm Richard Elliott with WSB-TV here in Atlanta. You've heard the criticism from Democrats that making the Trump tax cuts permanent comes at a cost to Medicare. WSB-TV here in Atlanta. You've heard the criticism from Democrats that making the Trump tax cuts permanent comes at a cost to Medicare, SNAP benefits, and other things like that. How would you answer some of those criticisms by the Democrats?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that question. Look, there are a couple of responses to that criticism. First of all, the only people that we say should not get free government health care benefits are illegal aliens and those who refuse to try to even look for a job. It's very common sense. We want, and look, we are going to bankrupt this country if we keep on giving the people's benefits, the people's Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security benefits to illegal aliens who have no legal right to be in this country and never paid into the system to begin with. That is never the design of those programs, is to give them to every person all over the world. They ought by right to belong to the American citizens who paid into those programs to begin with. And that's what we're fighting to make sure happens. And the second response I'd say to that is, look, we did a lot in this legislation. Brian worked on it. The other representatives here worked very hard on this to make sure that a lot of our rural hospitals are struggling because of some of the policies of the Biden administration. So what we did is we put a lot of resources and a lot of changes in regulations to make it possible for our rural hospitals to stay open despite what the Biden administration did to them for 4 years. So our policy is very simple. Whether you're in a big city or a small town, we're going to fight for your access to health care. Whether you're an American citizen who's been here for 70 years or an American citizen who's been here for 2 years, we're going to fight for your access to a government that serves you. But if you're an illegal alien, you do not deserve government-paid health care benefits. You need to get out of our country, and that's as simple as that. Next question.
Mr. Vice President, Greg Bluestein with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Thanks for being here. I have a follow-up to Richard's great question on those health care funding cuts. There are Georgia Republican leaders who are legitimately concerned that more than 100,000 people could be knocked off the Medicaid rolls, not just people who are here undocumented or illegally, but people who are working class, who are struggling to get their health care. What message do you have for state Republican leaders on what they should do to reconcile those issues?
Well, the first thing I'd say is the state Republican leaders and, frankly, state Democratic leaders, if you're worried about American citizens losing access to health care, the Trump administration always has an open-door policy. And we worked with a number of our colleagues, Democrats and Republicans, at the federal legislature, but also at the state level, to make it possible to ensure that American citizens have access to the medical benefits that they need. It's as simple as that. So you're always going to have an open door. Now, we understand that reforms are complicated. Sometimes this stuff takes time to work itself through the system. Many of the changes in the working families tax cuts to Medicare, or excuse me, to Medicaid, you're not going to see that stuff. It's not even, some of it doesn't even go to effect for 6 or 7 years, in part because we want to give enough time to work with people to make sure that American citizens do not lose access to those critical benefits. So if you look at the way we design the law, if you look at the way that those reforms are implemented, and if you look at all the other things that we're doing, we want to work with people to make sure that American citizens get what they're entitled to. What we do not want is people who have no legal right to be here, to benefit from the generosity of the American taxpayer, and to bankrupt those programs. So long as you're willing to work with us on those goals, we'll work with anybody, whether you got a D or an R next to your name, because we care about this country. We want to make sure it's secure and healthy. Next question. We had a couple hands back here, but okay, we got a school back there. We do. Okay, well, let's get them a microphone.
My name is Virgil Garrett. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Of course, thank you.
I'm here with the Central Educational Center, CCS-TV. The CEC is a college and career academy focused on training high school students to enter technical and trade industries. Can you tell us how the big, beautiful bill will impact us and our prospective jobs? And also, how is the administration focusing on schools like ours?
So tell me, did you say your name was Virgil? Virgil, tell me a little bit more about your school.
Central Educational Center, we have classes focusing on trade and other industries. We have audio, video, aviation, cosmetology, dentistry, and students have
Got
the
it.
option.
Okay, thank you. Virgil, he asked me to comment on the school. I figured I should learn a little bit about it. I should learn a little bit about it before I commented on it, but I appreciate the clarification there. I mean, our proposal and our principle in the Trump administration is quite simple. We want Americans to be able to pursue their American dream. Whether that means going to a trade school or going to a 4-year education, going to the military, we want to give you as many options as possible. And what happened for a long time in this country is that you had both parties, both sets of leaders saying, no, 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 no. The only pathway that we're going to fund, the only pathway we're going to help you with is if you want to get a 4-year degree. If you want to get a 4-year degree, great. But if you want to be a plumber or an electrician or a pipe fitter, your government ought to fight for you too. And that's exactly what we want to make happen. And I do, you know, Virgil, part of that is policy. Part of that is making sure that things like Pell Grants and other federal benefits, they don't pick and choose. They don't discriminate against our great trade schools. But part of that is leadership. And I think it's important for those of us who are in positions of leadership to say that, you know, there are so many great careers that require you use your hands and your head at the same time, where you can earn a great living, you can build something great for your fellow citizens and people in your community. We're not going to have enough housing. We're not going to have plumbing that works. We're not going to have lights that turn on unless we've got enough people going into our trade schools. We got to have more kids doing it, more young people doing it, because they're the ones building the American dream of homeownership. They're the ones building the future, and we're going to fight for you every step of the way. Thank you for your question, Virgil. And let's do a few more questions here, then I'm going to have to hit the road. Sir. Where we got a microphone?
Vice President, Raul Bally, WABE Radio here in Atlanta. Wanted to ask you about something, your final topic on safety. Do you see the administration putting soldiers in the city of Atlanta?
Well, look, what we've done is we have focused on Washington, D.C. because it's a federal city under our jurisdiction, but we certainly hope that whether it's Atlanta or anywhere else, people are going to look around and say, we don't have to live like this. It turns out if you just go and arrest the bad guys, you can have cities and streets that are safe again. And we hope that people see what we're doing in Washington, D.C. and follow our example all across the country. I'm a big fan. Look, I grew up in a small town. I love our beautiful countryside and our rural areas, but I love our big cities too. And I want you to be able to go shopping or go and get a nice meal with your family without the fear that you're going to get mugged, or even worse, because you had the audacity to take your family out for a day in one of our great American cities. We don't have to live like this. All we need is politicians who actually care more about public safety for American citizens than they do for violent criminals. In Washington, D.C., in 10 days of what Donald Trump has done in Washington, D.C., did you know armed robberies are down 55% in our nation's capital? It's amazing. You know, murders in Washington, D.C. are down over 35%. Again, that's in a week and a half of just taking crime seriously. And there's something, you know, Democrats had this weird sickness in the head 5-6 years ago where they decided that all law enforcement was racist. You know who suffers the most, especially in our urban areas, when you don't allow the police to enforce the laws against bad guys? It is the good citizens, disproportionately black Atlantans, who suffer the most from high violent crime. Because you've got more, or at least a disproportionate number of black Georgians living in Atlanta compared to other places. So when you empower police to prosecute violent criminals, that's not racism, that's empowering everybody, black or white, to live safely in their communities, and that should be the God-given right of every American citizen to walk down the street in safety and comfort. God bless you, sir. At a restaurant or some other business where you're earning your wages primarily through tips, you're going to get a big fat tax cut. And most importantly, the president's economic policies are going to prevent your job from being shipped off to Asia or to Mexico. That is the very best thing for people at the bottom of the income ladder. And that's why we have the economic policies that we do. If you go back 50, 60 years, what is the fastest period for blue-collar wages rising in the United States of America? It is the time that we are living in right now, thanks to the economic policies of Donald J. Trump. You know what the worst thing for people at the bottom of the income ladder is? It's when you flood the country with millions upon millions of illegal aliens and force our poor Americans to compete for jobs against low-wage foreigners who don't even have the legal right to be here. That is what destroys the wages and the livelihoods of people who are struggling in this country. We want to empower them to live the American dream. That's why we're protecting their jobs, lowering their taxes, and fighting to make their country safe again. And I'll do one more question.
Sir, I'm George Cheedy. I write for The Guardian. I live in a small town, less than 1,000 people. I'm also a military veteran. I am a DINFOS-trained killer just like you.
Thank you for your service, George.
In 1996, in Atlanta, when the Olympics was coming through, Atlanta very famously rounded up people who were homeless on the street downtown, bought them bus tickets, and sent them out of town and often out of state. There's a lot of negative sentiment about that later. It's one of the things that people remember. I am concerned that in the press to eliminate encampments in D.C., something similar to that is happening. What is happening to the people who are homeless, often poor, often have a mental health problem or a drug problem? Where are they actually going when these encampments are being broken?
So first of all, George, I was 12 years old when the 1996 Summer Games happened in Atlanta, so I don't remember exactly the background there. I was worried about football and fishing and doing all the things that a 12-year-old in southwestern Ohio was worried about. But I think that the question betrays a certain misunderstanding of what we're trying to do and what is the nature of real compassion. I talked earlier about my son being harassed at Union Station a couple of years ago. Now, first, as a father, you have some vagrant screaming crazy stuff. I'm sure a lot of us have had this experience where you have some vagrant screaming crazy stuff at your 3-year-old. As a father, my first reaction is grab my son closer, make sure that he's safe. Okay, then you realize the person's not going to maybe run and charge and attack us. We'll just keep our distance. But then you think, wait a second. Why have we convinced ourselves that it's compassionate to allow a person who's obviously a schizophrenic or suffering from some other mental illness, why is it compassionate to let that person fester in the streets? You see them, a lot of them have clear mental health issues. A lot of them have clear physical health issues. They're not properly clothed. They're not properly cared for. Some of them are wasting away. The compassionate thing is to have people who are having mental health crises, to get them in treatment, not to let them sit on the streets and yell at our people while they're walking by. And so the president actually signed an executive order to make it easier for some of these people to get access to mental health treatment. And I don't know for the life of me what happened in this country where we decided that the compassionate thing was to let somebody fester on the streets instead of get the treatment that they need. It's very simple to me. And I don't know why we accept it as parents and as grandparents and as people who just want to walk down the street in comfort, why we accepted that it was reasonable to have crazy people yelling at our kids. You should not have to cross the street in downtown Atlanta to avoid a crazy person yelling at your family. Those are your streets, paid for with your tax dollars, and you ought to be able to use them like any other citizen of this country. So let me close. I know I said that was the last question, so let me just close with this thought. There are a number of things I could say about President Trump's leadership and a number of things I could say about what we're trying to accomplish in the Trump administration. Put very simply, we're trying to make America great for Americans again. When you hear that phrase, make America great, we want you as a taxpayer, as a worker, as a business owner, we want you to be able to enjoy the incredible benefits and bounty of the United States of America. This country was built by your grandparents, by your parents, by your forebears. You ought to have the right to live a good life in this country that wouldn't even exist were it not for the hard work of so many generations who came before us. They didn't put in that work. They didn't build this great country. They didn't carve the greatest civilization in the history of the world out of a wilderness so that their ancestors and their descendants could see it fall into disrepair. They did not build, look at Atlanta. It's a beautiful city. It's one of the most beautiful cities anywhere in the world. The people who built Atlanta did not build it so that you would not be able to walk down the streets of Atlanta safely at night. They built it so that you could enjoy it. They built this country so that we could make an even greater America out of it. And the policies of the Trump administration are meant for one simple reason: to empower you to live a great life in this country that all of us love. We've got a lot of work done in the last 7 months. We're going to do a hell of a lot more work in the next 3.5 years, and we're going to fight for you every single step of the way. God bless you.
All right, so interesting. A lot of people in the chat and also said he didn't answer the question, where are these people going? I don't know. I don't know where they're taking them, but I do know what they said at the beginning. They said they had the option. They could seek treatment. They could go to a shelter. If they didn't like that and they did something, they could go to jail. So, or just move on. One of the four. Move on, seek shelter, go to jail, do what you need to do, but you just can't stay here. And he's absolutely right. I actually like that answer. When did it become acceptable that we're like, yeah, it's okay that these people are camping out here in the park? Down here in Fort Lauderdale, beautiful, beautiful main library downtown. But it became a homeless encampment. And there were homeless people all over the place, where you didn't even want to go into that library anymore. I mean, gorgeous 3-4 story library. People used to just go there to hang out. It was awesome. And you're like, man, look, what is all this? Now, it sounds insensitive to say you got to move on, but you got options. Nobody is telling you you have to live on a street. There's not a single person that says that's what your lot in life is. You've been relegated to the side, and you're going to have to just deal with living on a street. Nope, nobody is saying that. But the reporters and many, people with big hearts don't like that. You got to go someplace. And you know there are options. So take an option. One of those options is no longer staying here. So I guess what he kind of said, and I have to kind of agree, it might hurt some people's feelings, is doesn't really matter. We've given people the option. Go to a shelter, go to jail, do whatever you need to do. We can help you with each of these picks that you want to go. But you have to decide you. And if you got some issues, whether it be drug or alcohol, whatever, then that other option was to go to get help. And so I don't understand how that's wrong. Go seek help, go to a shelter, go to jail, or simply move on. Can't do much more than that. All right, so I've got an interview scheduled with Richard Stern. I'm not sure if he's in here yet. Let me see if he's here. Not as of yet. So let me go ahead and get ready for him, and I will be right back.
Somewhere to be every night of the week. Seems God ain't close as he used to be. And there's more tequila in this old town than pines in Tennessee. I ain't the man I thought I'd be. And these neon lights that keep me up got me thinking maybe mom and dad had it right all along. We're too old to still be alone, and we ain't happy ever after all. I'm just saying it wouldn't be as bad as we made it out, living in our hometown. 2020. But I've been running like a southbound train, as fast as a northern summer with no one to love. And it's making me wonder if maybe mom and dad had it right all along, and we're too old to still be alone, and we ain't happy ever after all. No, I'm just saying it wouldn't be as bad as we made it out, living in our hometown. They said if you buy whiskey, don't overdrink it. If you find love, don't overthink it. Just find yourself a good one, and don't you let it go. That's what they told. Maybe mom and dad had it right all along, and we're too old to still be alone, and we ain't happy ever after all. No, I'm just saying it wouldn't be as bad as we made it out, staying in our hometown, yeah, in our hometown, yeah. Maybe we should just go there.
Welcome back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
So a bunch of people have asked me who sings that song, and I have no clue. I subscribe to a number of music services, royalty-free, so you can use it on YouTube. I'll have to look it up and see who actually did that song, because, yeah, I do like it. It's a very good song. So I've got an interview scheduled with right now I want to introduce you guys to. Richard A. Stern. He's a former Hill staffer. He's now working for the Heritage Foundation, director of the Rowe Institute for Economic Policy and the Herman Center for the federal budget. And this is his X profile if you'd like to go ahead and follow him. And let me bring him in here. Hey, how you doing, Richard? Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey, doing well. Thanks for having me on today.
Good. So thanks for waiting, because JD jumped on, and luckily it wasn't like a Trump-style speech. He was able to wrap that up pretty quick, so we can go into a couple things here. So tell me what you guys do, what you specifically do at the Heritage Foundation. I'm familiar with the Heritage Foundation, but what is it that you do there?
No, of course, thanks. So, I'm in the position of having the honor of running the econ and budget policy teams. So I manage our involvement, the policy writing we do, the advice we give the Congress. We help look over legislation. And, really my broader team looks at all aspects of federal budget policy. So, the fun stuff like spending and taxes, of course, and then economic policy. So talking broadly about labor markets, capital markets, all the things going on, Cracker Barrel's implosion on the stock market today, stuff like that. So that's what I do.
See, I was going to save that for later, but you brought it up. It was one of the items I had, and I also have a video about it as well. So much so, wait a second. And this wasn't planned, everybody. I was actually going to bring this up myself. So you're not
great minds think alike, right?
Yeah, you won't see it, but you should be able to hear me as I show everybody exactly what you're talking about, and then we can talk about it. So I wanted to show everybody, since Richard brought it up, that'd be a good time to actually speak about it. This is the Cracker Barrel stock as of right now. Let me go ahead and refresh it just to make sure everybody can see it. Where is it? Where did it go? Okay, there we go. Just refresh it to make sure everybody could see it. And this is the one day. This is just today. And so yesterday, you can see it fell off of a cliff as soon as she started talking, and it just kept going down, down, down. And it's kind of leveling out, but it's down. as well as the 5-day. That 5-day really gives you the picture. You can see yesterday, bam, as soon as she made that announcement, it just literally dropped off the table. And then, of course, the 1-month view, they're down 20%. So what were they thinking? I mean, as you dig into finance and you look at this stuff, is the woke ideology just something that's so pervasive they can't extricate themselves from it?
Well, I think to be fair to them, it might be that the woke ideology is so ingrained in the marketers and the people who are trying to do customer outreach. Really what I'm saying is it's so ingrained in the, quote, professional class who don't really work on the line, who don't serve tables, who frankly are divorced from the product of a company, who get churned out of these business schools where they know generically how the finances look, how you market, how you reach out to people, but they're not infused with the essence, the spirit of these companies, their culture, their customers, their products. And, I'll tell you this, there's an old lecture that Steve Jobs gave actually talking about the danger of this, about companies where the people who built it, who are deep in it, who built the product, are not the people who manage its face to the rest of the public.
Having worked for an advertising agency, I can tell you what Richard just said is absolutely true. And the part that a lot of people don't realize is that these are huge advertising agencies. They've been around forever, but the staff churns. And what people don't realize is a lot of the creative work that's done on a brand is done by 25, 26, 27-year-old kids who've never done anything. And it sounds cool. Let's go ahead and strip out the old man from the Cracker Barrel logo. Let's take away the logo or the tag name about the old country store, and not realizing the essence of what their client is and what they're doing can destroy it. But the problem I'm having is that the CEO came on with the big glasses, and we've seen that they've embraced LGBTQ and all this other stuff. So it's kind of there's absolutely got to be some culpability with the actual brand. When you they're looking at financial markets, when you see that, what do you think? What's going on in that company right now? Are they saying we can weather it, we can get through this, or are they worried right now about a Bud Light moment?
Oh, I think they're definitely worried. But, I'll tell you this, their worry, I think, started before this. So, I'm glad you showed the 1 month, that they're down 20% right now. I actually tweeted out earlier, and earlier today, they were down 22.5% over the month. But here's part of why. So, obviously restaurants got hammered during COVID and the shutdowns and all of that. But if we look at 22, 23, and 24, what you see is actually Cracker Barrel's revenues were relatively flat. Their earnings were pretty low. Their net profit margin is about 1.6% right now. It's almost nothing. And, restaurants have tight margins, but, 3 to 5%, close to the 5%. So basically triple Cracker Barrel's is pretty normal. So, and you see this a lot. So Cracker Barrel is not doing well, but it's not doing terribly either. And so then this happens where the management says, all right, we need a game changer. We need to do something else to drum up sales, to break into new markets. And, as the old adage goes, which is that, teams will get to the championship and then stop doing all the plays that got them to the championship. They've made what seems to be one of the classic fatal mistakes, is forgetting that your base ultimately has to be your base, your customers, the product they're looking for, not the woke crap on top of that. And so they seem to have abandoned their customers in trying to chase new markets, and they've not opened new markets, and they're losing their customer base. And that's what the stock's demonstrating right now.
And there's another company, all of us know they're experiencing the same thing, is Target. Target decided they had a core market and they were going to go woke and put all that stuff in the front of the store that was completely adverse to what the people were who were shopping there. Their money went down, and then they reversed and went woke, and now they're trying to get away from woke, so the people they alienated before haven't come back, and now they've alienated the people who they thought they embraced, and now I guess the bottom line is when you're talking to people in the Heritage Foundation, do you tell them to embrace politics, or just like, hey, keep your mouth shut, whatever your personal political views are, but should these companies be embracing politics at all?
Well, what we look at, and this is actually, I think, kind of the beauty of markets, is that, when I'm talking to people that are in business and whatnot, what I say to them is really understand what the product is you're selling. And I think that, a lot of people think about products as just the thing. They think of it as very material, very tangible. But, what I think a lot of people tell you is your brand is very much the product, because the brand encompasses everything about the physical thing, the tangibility of it, the feel of it, but also the reliability of it. Disney for decades was, parents understood, I could throw a Disney movie on the television, let my kids watch it, and I didn't have to be worried what was going to be the content in the movie. And they lost that. And Target has, and Bud Light, and we've got this tragic list of companies now. And when you think about what a Cracker Barrel was, the art, the decor, the essence, the vibe, an American general store of the Old West, the early 20th century, and restaurants off the Route 66 and highways like that. And to lose that, to go to a minimalist decor design, to have a logo that loses all the artistry, right? That's part of the product just as much as the food on the table. And so, what I always tell people is you got to understand that that's what people are looking for. Part of it's culture as well as the physical product. And to betray the culture like that, you can build trust over a long time, but you can lose it very quickly.
And along those lines, as you're seeing right now with the Democrat Party, again, in politics, there's a brand as well. President Trump is a master at branding, so there's no discussion how he's doing it. The Democrats don't seem to have any leadership, any strategy, any message, any real brand right now. So what do you think? How can, right now, I don't want to be complacent, but how do you think they would even bother coming back at this point? Newsom's not, it doesn't seem like he's foundering as well.
Oh, absolutely. So, what I would say, my own opinion on this is, if you look over 250 years of American politics and of other countries, there's really one thing at the end of the day that matters. It's actually exactly what you talked about, which is being able to have a political party, a coalition, a leader that represents some real definable sense of values. What people are looking for are leaders, elected and not elected across the board, who reflect their values, whose judgment you trust, who you think is a good representative of your community, who is an articulate leader, who is a good manager, who's somebody of good moral character. And what I think a lot of these political coalitions do is they get lost in the sauce, right? They put up charts and numbers, they put up factoids, but they don't have a narrative. They don't have a core value structure. And, let's face it, as we're talking about right now, what is the value structure of woke? It's a lot of blaming and shaming and mob vibe checks. You're either in the crowd, you're out of the crowd, you're either in the woke, or you're, last week's what was politically correct. There's not a defining long-run sense of morality or justice or vision for what it means to be alive, to be human, to be in a community. And I actually think that's why it's failing so much. It's so shallow compared to what most people are thirsting for.
Oh, absolutely. So today, obviously the breaking news that was a couple hours ago, is the Appellate Court has struck down the big giant fine that that Letitia James tried to put on President Trump. So dovetailing off that whole branding thing, many of these people built their profession and they campaigned to take Trump down. And now all of a sudden you can see the tide turning. How big do you guys, I'm sure you've talked about it today with your people at the Heritage Foundation. What does this mean to 2026?
So again, I think it means that people are starting, as you're talking about, the tide is turning. People are tired of dealing with a weaponized government. And, we talk about the executive branch, the legislative branch, but the court system really is supposed to be completely nonpartisan, blind justice. It's supposed to administer the rules in a fair and impartial manner. Part of what's, I think, so breathtaking about this case, what's so important about it, is what happened here is, you can argue about whether the underlying charges against Trump are real or not, or worthwhile or whatever. You can debate all that. But what's not debatable, and what the court found here, is, as you talked about, this $500 million random fine that James put on top of this. This was a weaponization attempt to say to Trump, we're going to find you guilty before you've had your day in court, and we're going to assess mounting, compounding interest like a loan shark charges on you that accrue every single day until your prearranged court case is found against you.
Right.
That's what she was trying to do here, subverting justice, moving to a kangaroo court structure. And so while this court case can feel a little, in the weeds about how the court works, it really was a solid attack against her and this weaponization of government and a defense for a justice system that waits for a trial, that actually is impartial, that's actually fair. And that's critical.
Where do you see the actual other? Let me stay with this case. This just stripped the fine for now. They may come back with $1 million, $5 million, whatever. It strips the fine, but the actual verdict is still in place. Where do you see that going? Is it going to be something that obviously they're going to appeal if it's already not under appeal? Will that verdict even stand?
Well, and again, we'll have to see how the appellate process works out on that. I've looked at some of the details. I haven't looked through all of them. I'm not a lawyer handling the case. But, I'll tell you the truth. I think it's rather murky. And I think it's very hard, frankly, right, to see a lot of this as sticking, which, to be perfectly honest with you, is why it's under appeal. And that's why, to your point there, the reason why in the court case today, the reason the court struck down that fine is the fine was done in such an onerous, above, just over the top manner, because it was her way of saying, I'm going to subvert the appellate process and say simply, look, I already know you're guilty, as if she has the power to do that, and I'm going to slap this just enormous fine on you because I can. Yeah. Who's going to stop? Yeah. And that's why it's so important that this appellate court stepped in to say, no, that's not your right. You can't do that. And that if he is ultimately found guilty, the fines have to be something that makes sense, that they can't be, frankly, cruel and unusual. And that is among the reasons why the founders put that prohibition in the Constitution. They were used to dealing with despots and tyrants who made a habit of saying, I have the power, who can stop me from weaponizing the government? And that's frankly why, if you're in the policy wonkery of it, it's such a critical thing to defending our civil liberties.
So when you're watching what's going on in the financial markets, and now we see this appellate thing happen, and I got to believe there's a lot of Democrats quaking in their boots. Excuse me. One of those people that may be quaking in their boots is Jerome Powell. It's supposed to be a reduction come September. We don't know. I've been looking on CNBC this morning. They're waffling, going maybe, maybe not. What kind of predicament is Jerome Powell in?
Well, he's certainly in a pressure cooker. He's got people on all sides of him coming after him. And, I honestly think there's two main things I want to talk about that aren't just about him. But, part of this is that, obviously we know what Trump's trying to put on him, trying to cut rates. But you've got a lot of elected Democrats who are coming in who are saying, no, keep rates steady for political reasons. Yeah. And so it's put Powell in a place where if he cuts rates, it looks like he's caving in the Trump. If he keeps rates flat, it looks like he's caving in the Democrats. Right. And so, you end up in a situation where really both sides, but all these elected Democrats for sure, are making it impossible for anyone to believe that whatever the Fed decides to do, whatever he and the board do, was truly nonpartisan and wasn't just caving in the politics on one side or the other. But I'll tell you the other part of this, which not a lot of people are talking about. The reason why we have high inflation and high interest rates is the size of the federal deficit. Right. And so what everyone's ignoring, because they're in Congress, is that unless Congress can check government spending, the Fed's choosing which way you feel the burden of the deficit, but they can't just solve the problem. Right.
So what needs to happen in that regard? We're seeing yesterday Tulsi Gabbard is slashing $700 million from the intelligence community, and all that sounds like a big number until you look at the $36 trillion and you realize it's still a drop in the bucket per se. So when you guys at the Heritage are looking at, and I know you spend a lot of time looking at what you just said, what needs to happen next, and then what needs to happen on an ongoing basis?
So I honestly, I think you could make an argument, frankly, for the Fed to either cut rates a quarter point or not. I hate to say it. My guess is probably if they cut rates, you're not going to see a positive response in the economy. You might not see inflation, but I don't think it's necessarily going to do anything. But really, we need to cut more spending. You're absolutely right. The little bit that's cut so far is unprecedented, but it's small compared to the size of the deficit. What we really need is grand reform that puts the budget on a long-term trajectory to balance. Doesn't need to be overnight. We don't need to rug pull anybody, but we need to get to balance eventually. And if we make those changes now, they can be gradual, they'll be painless, and we can get the country back to a position where it's not going towards bankruptcy. But in the meantime, if Congress doesn't cut spending like that, it's a path to bankruptcy and oblivion for the American public and for the next generations.
I know you have a hard stop, so just real quick, the last question, if you could give me an idea, with you guys at the Heritage, what are you working on? What are you advising for these long-term fixes?
Well, if you want, you can go look at the budget blueprint that we publish annually. It has 230 different options to go through things. Wow. But what I'll tell you is, every single year Congress comes to the well and votes for massive spending increases. And these are random grants to this group. Some of these are political groups, this industry, that industry. We have welfare programs in this country that keep ballooning out of all control. We don't really monitor waste and fraud. And we haven't set up our programs, even like Medicare and Social Security, to truly preserve benefits for seniors who paid in, who are low income. There's many reforms that can be done. And, honestly, a lot of these programs haven't been touched since they were created decades ago, where they're random new programs, and Congress doesn't have the discipline or the honesty of the American public to sit down, modernize them, look through, have better practices to catch fraud. And that's really a lot of the problem. But, feel free, you can look at what we've published, over 200, policy memos, a lot of which have a lot of different parts to them. And, thank you for asking me about it.
Yeah. So I know you got to run. Last question. This should be a short one. Tell us what we should be looking for over the next 30, 60, 90 days that tells us that Trump is on the right track, the right path to try and help get some of this debt down.
So I appreciate that. I think for sure, look at things like you were saying that Gabbard just did, looking for these cuts, looking at deregulation, getting energy resources out of the ground. Growth is another way to deal with this. And of course, what these trade deals are going to be. It's imperative that we get these trade deals, open markets, and that after we're done with the negotiations, we get tariffs back down to zero. So
okay, both ways, or you talking about tariffs that we're charging? You want to get back to zero too?
So honestly, if you use tariffs as a short-term tool of negotiation, that's perfectly fine. In the long run, even if another country is tariffing you, your tariffs are a burden on your own people. It's better to have them as low as possible. But I trust Trump. He's a good negotiator. I want to see what deals he gets in the next month, 2 months, 3 months here in the meantime.
All right, Richard, thank you. I know you had hard stuff, and we got in under the 3 o'clock time, so thank you very much for taking the time today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me on today.
Thank you, sir. All right, if you guys would like to get in there and start looking at what the Heritage Fund is doing and what they're recommending and all those different points that Richard was speaking to, you can follow Richard at Rich A. Stern on X. And you can click here to the Heritage Foundation, and you can start looking at the Herman Center for the Federal Budget, and that'll give you a really good idea as to what you can expect, or what you can hope to expect, to get this deficit down from the monstrous $30-something trillion. But in the interim, if you'd like to understand what you can do personally, I completely endorse going into gold and silver. And if you can't take the big hit with gold, silver is extremely affordable. And I encourage you to look at silver because of its affordability and its ability to the projection in terms of long term.
It's genius. It's pure genius. America is the country that started the AI race. And as President of the United States, I'm here today to declare that America is going to win it. We're going to work hard. We're going to win it.
Why do so many financial experts call silver the most undervalued asset today? Because silver is essential to the future, from solar tech and electric vehicles to the explosive growth of artificial intelligence. Demand is rising fast, and yet silver is still trading at a bargain. With billions pouring into AI, silver prices have only one place to go, and that's up. In fact, silver may be the most overlooked asset class in financial planning. The opportunity for silver is well documented. The market for silver could double or even triple by 2026. You see, I believe in hard assets like this bar of silver. You can hold it in your hand, you can put it in your IRA, you can put it in your home safe, and relative to gold, it's very affordable. That's why I urge you to call my friends at Lear Capital and get their free report, The AI Revolution, and see why silver prices could be set to soar. Call 800-601-5430 or go to learberry.com. But don't wait. We all know. We've seen it. The government can print lots and lots of dollars, but they can't print silver. All right, so some breaking news for you. President Trump has decided he's going on patrol tonight with the members of law enforcement and the National Guard. He called into the Todd Starnes show. Take a listen.
And I'm going to be going out tonight. I'm going to keep it a secret, but I'm going to go. You're the only one that knows. You and your lots of listeners. You have a great show. You have a very successful show, by the way, in case you haven't heard that. But I'm going to be going out tonight, I think, with the police, and with the military, of course. So we're going to do a job. The National Guard is great. They've done a fantastic job.
I hope there's video of this. I hope that they take a whole bunch of video of President Trump out there in a Humvee. Maybe he's got a helmet on. I don't want it to look like Mike Dukakis, but I would love for him to be out there when they take somebody and if he got involved in an arrest. I can't even imagine. These people would lose their damn minds. It would be unbelievable for him to do that. So perfect. So perfect. All right, so let me continue with the show I had as well. I've got a whole bunch of things I want to talk to you about in regards to him winning this appeal.
There's a Fox News alert here. An appeals court has just thrown out President Donald Trump's $364 million civil fraud penalty. New York's Appellate Division changed the original decision that stood to cost Trump over $500 million. One appeals judge calling the lower court's penalty an excessive fine that violates the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution. You might remember that New York Attorney General Letitia James' office says despite this decision, they will not be dropping the case. Let's get some thoughts from Andy McCarthy. He's a former U.S. attorney. He is a Fox News contributor. He is on the phone with us. And last summer, you were helping us every single day as President Trump sat in that courtroom. Letitia James, the AG, she happened to be there as well. And at the time, I remember, Andy, you said that you thought this could be the outcome once the appellate court got a hold of it. What are your thoughts this morning?
Well, I think, Dana, that Trump may be ultimately completely exonerated on this. For now, the penalty goes. There was division in the appeals court about the merits of the underlying suit, but as you point out, what they found basically under an 8th Amendment theory, that's the amendment that prohibits cruel and unusual punishments, there was such a mismatch between whatever wrong was actually established in the trial and the outrageous penalty that was imposed for it, which was, I think, $355 million, which with interest and other costs is already up to about $530 million.
Back to this breaking.
All right, so I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat are like, don't go. Trust me. He'll be in the most safe vehicle you possibly can imagine. It will be surrounded by Secret Service and a National Guard and probably some military guys as well. Remember the dump truck thing? The dump truck where he went to McDonald's and he served McDonald's and then he came, not dump truck, garbage truck? Yeah, he'll be fine. I'm pretty sure. I pray he'll be fine. The optics, though, is going to drive people crazy, as did this ruling. Now, understand, as Richard was saying, the reason this was triggered because of the 8th Amendment. cruel and unusual punishment. The guy's having to pay millions of dollars per month to afford the bond or pay the bond that they put on for $500 million. See, she was hoping when she did this, and what makes it extremely cruel and unusual is that they were hoping he couldn't come up with the bond. Then if he couldn't come up with a bond, then what they were going to do is try to seize his properties. It was a huge nefarious plan she had. So understand, this man has been indicted, has been sued, has been accused of sexual battery or whatever, has been shot at, all these things, and he has weathered that entire storm that they tried to throw at him. Even, I would call anti-Trump people like Andy McCarthy, they all sit back and realize now, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad for Letitia James. It's going to be bad for the Democrats because now he understands. And everybody, talk about, I know, we were talking about branding with Cracker Barrel. Listen to what people are saying right now. They're absolutely ecstatic. He beat New York. And now, Letitia James, we know Pam Bondi's coming for you. I don't know what you're going to do. But you don't have the money Trump has. And so when they indict you, and they're going to indict you federally on mortgage fraud because it's easy to prove. Good luck with that. You won't have this ability. You won't even get the same thing that you afforded him. You're pretty much going to go down on a federal charge. Not a New York charge, a federal charge. Big difference. And I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. That was a charge in New York that they were trying to get him on. This is going to be a federal matter, mortgage fraud. Good luck with that.
News. A New York appeals court has thrown out the massive civil fraud penalty against President Trump, a huge win for the president. He was originally ordered to pay more than $360 million plus interest. He was accused, of course, of financial statements, and that penalty has since gone up to nearly $500 million. Our national correspondent Brian Yennis has the latest now about what this all means. Brian?
Hi, Aisha. Well, again, to remind our viewers, this was a civil fraud case brought forward by the Attorney General Letitia James, claiming that the president and his sons in the Trump organization inflated their value and the value of their companies on financial forms. The penalty that they then were handed down after being found guilty in this civil case, or liable, I should say, in this civil case, was that they had to pay $364 million plus interest, which was $515 million. Well, now, after
that is stunning. $500 million on loans and things that he took out that he paid back, that the banks that gave him the money came to the courthouse and said, nah, everything's fine. He's paid us back. We'd lend him again. There was no victim. Nothing. Everybody was paid back. Everybody's happy. But this case made no sense from the beginning. And luckily, I live here in South Florida. Mar-a-Lago is right up the road. I drove by it. Everybody who lives here laughed. When she said it was only worth $18 million, we knew then. I didn't even have to listen to the rest of the case. When you said that Mar-a-Lago was only worth $18 million, you embarrassed yourself. You embarrassed yourself to the world, because a lot of world leaders have been to Mar-a-Lago. Like, 18 million? And I wasn't being facetious. You can't buy the dirt that Mar-a-Lago sits on for $18 million. Can't buy the dirt. Those of you who aren't from South Florida, you may not understand this piece of property that was part of the Meriwether Post Empire. And this property sits from the ocean to the intercoastal. Waterfront, both sides. It is massive. I mean, it's probably it's bigger than the Kennedy compound. You could probably fit 2 Kennedy compounds in there. And people right now are paying $30-40 million to tear down older homes to rebuild. So you could never replicate the Mar-a-Lago for $18 million. Couldn't do it. And the day that came down, and the news would never cover it. The news would never tell people, that's ridiculous. And I tried showing people, like, you can't buy anything. There's nothing on that island for $18 million. It is an enclave to itself. It is arguably some of the most expensive real estate in the world. And she basically, a lot of the people who are Democrats who live there, a lot of very, very, very wealthy, not rich. These people are wealthy. They pay the rich people. And they had to kind of stay quiet because they're like, yeah, I've got property there. She don't even have any idea. Have no idea what this thing is worth. Or maybe she did, and her intent was to foreclose on it.
7 months of looking at this case, the New York Appellate Court has decided to throw out that decision, that penalty, specifically the penalty. And this is the quote: while the injunctive relief ordered by the court is well crafted to curb defendants' business culture, the court's disgorgement order, they found, which directs that defendants pay nearly $500 million to the state of New York, is an excessive fine that violates the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution. The 8th Amendment bans or calls out excessive bail that shall not be required, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted.
You have to wonder, as you're listening to this unfold on August 21st, 2025, what took them a year to come to this decision? A year. And imagine right now, just imagine to yourself if this man wasn't president, what they would have been doing all this time since November to him and his company and his family. There's no doubt that they were going to come for him really hard, even after he lost the election. So God, thank you for that.
So this appellate court found that $500 million that the Trump administration, that President Trump was set to owe to the state of New York, was cruel and unusual punishment, excessive, according to the law. The court did find, though, that the president and these defendants were liable. They agree that the Supreme Court, with the Attorney General, that the Attorney General acted well within her lawful power to bring this case forward, and they also found that the Supreme Court properly ruled only on the claims on this, but they obviously did not agree here on the penalty that was handed out. So
I just want to make sure you understand, the Supreme Court, he's talking about a Supreme Court, Superior Court of New York. So it's going to go back to SCOTUS, undoubtedly, because she's not giving up. She's got to get Trump. She ran on it. I got to get Trump. So they're going to keep appealing it all the way back up to the Supreme Court. Because now that this has been thrown out, they're going to, and I want you to realize how much money the state of New York, Letitia James, is spending. This isn't federal. This is the state. Is allowing this woman to continue with her witch hunt and paying for it, even though she just got smacked down. Now she's probably going to appeal, and they're going to keep going, and they're going to go on this for years. They don't care. I got to get Trump. When I was talking to Richard, that's one of the things I was saying about the branding of all this, is somebody somewhere, I don't think this person exists, but somebody needs to step into the Democrat Party and go, stop. Everything we're doing, everything, every single message we're putting out is wrong. If I was a marketing director for the Democrat Party right now, that's what I would say to them. Everything, not this, that, everything you're doing is wrong. Nobody wants what you're selling. Maybe you need, instead of copying Trump and saying this stuff about Newsom and the poor people, maybe you might want to be talking to the larger market. If you were going to sell something today, and I told you about this term called total addressable market, you would be speaking to the largest share of the market you possibly could grab. You would say, hey, listen, I understand you're concerned about this. You're concerned about that. You don't like what Trump's got to say, and I have a better idea. Tell me the last idea you've heard from the Democrat Party. Doesn't exist. Fight Trump, get Trump. Fight Trump, get Trump. What about us? I don't know. That's all we know how to do. And that's why I'm telling you right now, people are talking these crazy-ass polls. It's like, how could you be voting Democrat when you don't even know what they stand for right now? What are they going to do for you? So the only people who can be hardcore Democrats are the fascist Nazi haters who think that, you know, we're all crazy and we walk around with horns in our head and tails. Other than that, regular Americans who may be Democrat are going, but you're not doing anything. You don't tell me anything. Well, that's where they are.
Basically here, after 11 months, the New York Appellate Court finding that this $500 million penalty was far too excessive, that gets thrown out. There are still avenues of appeal here available for the president on other manners with this case, particularly on whether or not this was politically motivated. Aisha.
Okay, Brian Yennis, live for us in New York. Thank you for breaking that down for us. Want to bring in now Jonathan Turley, constitutional law attorney, George Washington University law professor, and of course a Fox News contributor, a good friend of ours here on the program. Jonathan, I want to ask you, this doesn't exonerate the president. It still finds him guilty of the crime, but it maybe gives him more of a fair shake.
Well, Aisha, thank you for having me on. This is obviously a tremendous victory for President Trump, but it's long overdue. During this litigation, many of us described this entire effort as a grotesque use of this New York law. No one lost money in this case. The banks actually wanted more business from President Trump. No one had ever seen an effort like this. It was an effort by Letitia James to...
I just wanted to pause it for a second there because I wanted to put your attention on the gentleman to President Trump's left. That's Emil Bove. That's one of the guys that he got confirmed as a new judge. The Democrats were beside themselves because Emil Bove was sitting right there the entire time during this entire trial. And he was right there with Trump the entire time. He knew where he wanted to do. He knew what was going on. And that guy is the guy, he just got confirmed as a judge.
Have a trophy win against Trump. And what this opinion has done is to reduce what was a mounted marlin to something of a guppy. I mean, it has removed the fine and left in place the injunctive relief that President Trump can now appeal. So it is possible that even that could go to the wayside. The good news is really for the New York court system. This regains some of the credibility that was lost during this process. I mean, many of us stood there in disbelief that James was allowed to do this. She succeeded in securing, or she was fortunate enough to secure, a very favorable judge, Judge Engoron. And I want to note, by the way, that both the judge and James tried to effectively price Trump out of even appealing the case.
So what he means by that is, in order to even appeal the case, you had to come up with a bond of the fine. Meaning, we're going to adjudicate it, we're going to say you're liable for fraud, and we're going to give you a $350 million fine. But if you remember, it was $400, and it got struck down to $300, and then the interest accrued on top of that. But in order to appeal the case, you had to actually put up the bond first. And they were hoping that he would never get a bond. In fact, when he got the first bond, she fought that. Just trying to bring you guys up to speed. She fought the bond, said, no, we don't recognize it here. We're not going to accept it. So their entire case was to go after him and take his properties.
Insisted that he would have to pony up $500 million just to question what they did in the case. And it was an outrageous effort to effectively price out an appeal. It didn't work, and now we can see that the appellate court said this should never have happened in terms of the fine.
And, you're so right about this. That was the underlying message from the president. I mean, then candidate at the time was that if they can do this to me, they can come out and do this to you. So what happens now with the fine, and what are Donald Trump's, levers? What other avenues does he have to continue fighting this?
Well, I think he should continue to fight it. This was a misuse of this law. It's a very controversial law, but it's on the books. It's never been used in this absurd way. And so there are still legitimate questions here with regard to the injunctive relief. The court obviously fractured on these issues. The good news for New Yorkers is that the Court of Appeals really sent a message to the business community, the legal community, that they are not going to allow raw lawfare, because this.
All right, so that is extremely important. President Trump mentioned that in his Truth Social post. The businesses were like, hey, if she can do this to you, there's no telling what she can do to us. You were the president. You were existing at that time a presidential candidate. And she was trying to make it so you could never do business in the state of New York ever again. So at that point, other people who aren't prominent as President Trump said, well, if she can do that to him, why would I ever open a business in New York? I don't want this woman getting pissed off at me and giving me some, it wouldn't even have to be $550 million. For some people, if they had to do a $2 million bond, it means it's over. They're done. Close your doors. And so people were resistant to even open a business.
Really the greatest example of that. Attorney General James ran on the pledge to bag Donald Trump. She didn't even say what for. She just said, I'm going to get him. And the New York voters elected her. And this is what she came up with. It should never have gotten to this point. I mean, I think that in the years to come, people in New York and outside New York need to look at the case and try to figure out how this was allowed to get this far.
But in order for that to happen, you're going to have to get rid of Kathy Hochul as the governor, because you would need a governor to step in and go, you can't do this. You can't take this case. Because right now, essentially, Letitia James is her own person. She's not answering to anybody. Kathy Hochul's not going to stop her. That's it. That's the only person other than some judge who can step in and say, you can't do this. So today's rebuke is extremely, extremely huge, and it really puts a dent in what Letitia James can do moving forward. Because now the other judges have to understand there's already been a ruling by the appellate court. We can't give this kind of excessive stuff on people anymore. It's done. You have to do the time according to the crime. And she went way overboard. So this was a massive win for President Trump. But you would know it by listening to some people in the liberal media. I told you earlier, I wanted to show you this. They're already downplaying it. No, it's not that big of a deal. He's still guilty or liable, whatever. Listen to this.
Eric Trump calling this a total victory, but is it?
No, it's anything but. And you can predict what the spin is going to be, total exoneration, et cetera. I have had a chance to skim this opinion, certainly not read every word of the 300-page opinion. But what's really important is, even though the court found that the fine was excessive and has eliminated that under the 8th Amendment, what it said, most importantly, is that there was fraud, that the verdict was absolutely sound, that the evidence...
No, not most importantly. Most importantly is he doesn't have to come up with $550 million. Oh, it's no big deal. Okay, but he still found him guilty. What's most important is he doesn't have to come up with $550 million, and you cannot preclude him from doing business in the state of New York. How does she miss that? How does she say that the thing that's already existing is the new news? They already had the adjudication. Nothing changed with that. He's still appealing that. So how is that the big news she's talking about? No, the big news is he doesn't have to come out of pocket. Man, these people, and she admitted. So you know what happened. They brought her on. She I don't even know what I'm talking about. Let me skim it. Okay, means I looked at a few tweets. She didn't even know what she was talking about.
showed that the Trump organization engaged in massive fraud, and that is not going anywhere, that finding. In addition, the court is upholding all of the injunctive relief, that is, requiring an independent monitor to make sure that this pattern of massive fraud stops, to protect the public, barring some of the Trump organization officials from serving in corporate leadership roles. All of that stands. And so certainly it is a benefit to the Trump organization not have to pay $500 million in a fine. What's important here is that the court upheld the finding that the Trump organization engaged in massive fraud.
That's what's most important. As far as the Democrats are, is like, you know, we still won. We still ask anybody on the street. I'm sure you're going to see it all if you care to turn on these stations. we still won. I'm pretty sure not having to pay $550 million is a much bigger win. And don't omit the fact that they're still appealing the other stuff. She forgot to announce that. They lie so much they can't remember their lies. All she did was regurgitate what was exactly in place. And she said that was the win when it was already there, and just trivialize the fact that you no longer have to pay $550 million. That's one hell of a win as far as I'm concerned. That's a massive win. The rest of the win will come, and then you'll have to eat your words again. Trump won. They're just so tired of losing. I guess it just keeps happening to them over and over and over. Letitia James, I don't think she's going to get removed because Kathy Hochul and the people in New York are just putting up with her. But she may get removed in a different way. I still want to know who was going to get the $550 million. I can tell you that, the state of New York. She actually, if you were here at the beginning, she had done a video where she said, I'm going to go pick up a $200 million check and bring it back. She actually said that in a press conference or a speech. I'm going to go pick up a $250 million check. They thought that was coming to the state of New York. Well, Barry, they're so tired of losing that any little scrap will make them deliriously happy. I don't think they can be happy. What can they be happy about? I don't know. Like, what's his name? Senator Kennedy, because they're just some of the most, and he's around them every single day. He's like, they're just the most unhappy bunch of people you'd ever want to meet. Miserable. New York vote, yeah, New York should definitely bring in Elise Stefanik. Yeah, I hope she definitely wins. She should be. The first sitting AG to do her work from prison. Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, somebody said she even had a countdown up on X that she was going to count the money. It was coming in. She was going to take it. Absolutely. This makes them even more dangerous because it seems like every day, and sometimes twice a day. I mean, it's only 3:30, and I don't know by the time I get off what's transpired in the last hour and how many other things have happened. It just keeps going. They set themselves up for a fall. They had a false premise. The entirety of the Democrat Party had a false premise. All the way back to the babbling president that they tried to get reelected, that everything was a charade. And now it's all falling apart, and there's nobody there to help them pick it up. And I hope they don't get anybody. And it doesn't look like anybody's going to just magically appear either. They've turned from trying to fix what they broke to trying to go further woke. Trying to all get behind this communist mayor. I'm like, do you not get it? Do you not realize nobody wants the shit you're selling? And they won't change for some reason. It's hard to imagine people being this obtuse. It really is. Hey, listen, let me tell you guys about Chapter, who I am using for those of you who are turning 65 soon, like I just turned 65. This is an important message. My Medicare advisors at Chapter are helping people cut through the Medicare mess and save thousands of dollars. I've turned 65 and I was getting bombarded with calls and ads. I mean, just constantly. Even while sitting here during the show, I used to get them. On top of that, I didn't know who to trust. There are a lot of scammers out there and a lot of selfish agents out there trying to push you into plans that make them more money. All my worries went away when I spoke to my advisors at Chapter. These guys are the real deal, and I found that to be true. They start by understanding your needs, not their needs. They're not on commission. They actually work to help you. They compare every plan out there to find the one that saves you the most, and on average they can save people $1,100. But if you're in a situation where you don't need to get the cheapest, least expensive plan, they'll help you get a Cadillac plan as well. They're totally honest and independent, which can't be said about everyone in Medicare. With one short, free, simple phone call, you can feel confident in your Medicare coverage. There's no pressure, no nonsense, just clear, unbiased guidance, and it's completely free for the fanfare community. Don't take chances with your health or your wallet. Get your free, no obligation Medicare advice from my friends at Chapter. Just call 475-328-3545. You won't regret it. In fact, most people, once they've spoken to Chapter, says, I should have called you guys even sooner. So once again, that's 475-328-3545. All right, so let's move into this next section I have before I have to go. All right, okay. Where is this? I believe, as we're talking about the Democrats not having any joy in their life, I think one of the reasons why they have no joy is because they're so hypocritical and that they're so single-minded that they don't care what people think. Everything to them is under the prism of what can we do to get power instead of how we can help the American people. And they're starting to get downright angry. Listen to this.
And so I remind us that patriotism is not screaming and yelling America first. Patriotism is not screaming and yelling America first. Real patriotism is loving your country so much that you actually want to help the people in your country.
Meanwhile,
Do you think that your colleagues in the Senate Democrats, should refuse to fund the government? That deadline is coming up at the end of September. Should they refuse to vote on these spending bills using that leverage until they see President Trump reverse deploying troops in the streets of D.C.?
Yes. I mean, first, that should be on the table. And I don't think we should be ruling that out. I think that Democrats in the Senate, the House, I mean, all of us should be united in using everything that we can do and all of our power to stop what Trump is doing right now, not just in D.C., but across the country. So absolutely, that should be on the table.
The first clip was him right after he got sworn in. And right when he got sworn in, I don't know how long ago it was, he was like, I'm about the country, America, yeah, it's great. And we don't have to be America for... And then the next clip was yesterday. Yeah, we should do anything we need to do just to stop Trump. That's your message? There's nothing you can say, here's what I'm for. I'm here to help the American people. I'd like to see you safe, prosperous. I'd like to see the country move forward. Nope. My only message right now is stop Trump. Stop Trump is not a winning strategy. In fact, stop Trump is going to get you guys not elected because you're not offering anybody anything. You're making him look better. You're making him look better because your sole focus is to take him down. You sound like Letitia James. And it clouds your judgment. But that's where the Democrats are. I had to bleep out a part of this next piece because the guy can't stop swearing.
when you get a gift, take a gift. And JD Vance, and you and I have talked about this, and we'll talk about it publicly. He went on vacation. People, Florida resorts are hurting. Las Vegas tourism is down substantially.
Yeah, Las Vegas is down. Florida resorts, not so much. Not so much. And if you're talking about now is the summer. It's supposed to be slow here because it's like 150 degrees. You might want to check into South Florida or even mid-Florida about November, December, and see what the numbers look like. You might be a little bit surprised. In fact, don't take my word for it. Try to book a room, James. See how it is. But more importantly, they're so miserable, they're pissed off because of where JD Vance went for vacation. Let that sink in. He went vacation to London. And that's bad.
Parks, Yellowstone's down 15%. So, okay, he's entitled to a vacation. I'll give him that. Guess where he went? To a place called Oxfordshire in England, which is a tony wealthy place that rich Londoners go to. Call it the Martha's Vineyard of England. And why we didn't blow this up? Okay, why didn't the Tourist Association of the Florida Panhandle blow this up? The Las Vegas.
I can tell you why. Because he went on vacation with his kids. You people are so miserable. You don't even want people vacationing. I don't get it. Again, there's no joy in Mudville. These people are just miserable Fs. You went on vacation in England. Did he meet any people over there? You know, any people from, the government over there? Wow.
People, the California people, the Wyoming people. You mean you can't vacation and your wife and kids in his own country? I'm getting ready to go to Lake George. Could be the most beautiful place on earth. People.
Let me just tell you, Lake George, having been there, having been to Fort Ticonderoga, it's a nice place to go on a vacation. It definitely ain't the best place ever on earth. Nope, not gonna call it. I'm pretty sure, even having been to Hawaii, that I'm looking forward to going to someplace like Bora Bora for that kind of atmosphere. But then you don't even have to have a beach atmosphere. There's all kinds of nice places. But Lake George is not the nicest place ever.
And upstate New York would have been glad to have his money. But what does he do? He goes to a Tony English Village, and by the way, they wouldn't even let him in the best pub because employees in the pub said they wouldn't serve him. This is what, use JD Vance and just kick the shit out of him every chance you get.
He's a happy guy, isn't he? Use JD Vance and just kick the crap out of him every chance you get. Wow. By the way, James, did you have a message for Americans? Did you have something that would improve Americans' lives? We just heard a speech from JD Vance, and he's talking about how this and how that, and we're going to do this to help you, the American people. James, you're doing a podcast. What? Oh, you got anything for the American people? Nope. JD sucks. Kick the crap out of him anytime you see him.
Democrat, bring him into your district. You want JD Vance?
You want JD, yeah. Yeah, JD fucking Vance. Go to Oxfordshire.
Miserable people. Not just angry, just miserable people. People you don't even want to be around. I'm like, dude, what the hell is this? Speaking of people you don't want to be around.
So now you have someone who believes in this type of philosophy, who now has control of our National Guard. And so, the idea that we thought January 6th was a problem and we thought, oh man, that's bad. And, his army.
Who's this we? Who's this we you speak of, honey? By the way, she's about to be unemployed. They've redistricted her out to oblivion, so you won't see much of her for much too longer.
Army then was a bunch of white nationalist races, whether we're talking about the Proud Boys or the neo-Nazis or whomever. Those guys were the ones that made up his army on that day to try to...
So this is why people like Gavin Newsom will never be president. As she's saying this insanity, he's sitting back going, until somebody can stand up and say, stop. You cannot lump all these people into the Proud Boys. You cannot lump all these people into racists, homophobes, Nazis. You can't do that. Until you can call people and address them as what they really are, Americans, and say, I've got a better way for you. Now, I don't want to give these people any strategies, but it's kind of obvious. They can't beat the Republicans or / MAGA. You don't have anything you're offering. And I selected these clips because I sit back and go, okay, let me listen. And nothing. And you would think at this point, 7 months into President Trump's term, after having kicked Kamala's butt, you would change direction. If this isn't working, we might change. Nope, no change in sight, and that's basically the definition of insanity. You keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you got. And it's like they don't see it. Robin always tells me these people have blinders on. God's put blinders on them. And I have to think at this point she might be right. Because I couldn't imagine continuing to do the same thing over and over and realizing, well, we really lost last time, but let's keep doing it and worse. I've been involved in sports, been involved in business, and people make mistakes, but they don't just say, let's do that again. Nobody I know would do that. Nobody you know would probably do it. When you're faced, here's your mistake. That was pretty much fun. Can I do it again? Can I just go ahead and just do this all over again? No. They do.
A coup. Now you're talking about a guy that every time he disagrees with something, he uses the power that he has because no one around him is checking him, whether we're talking about those in his administration or whether we're talking about the courts or if we're talking about the Congress. That is one of the reasons he is so desperate to make sure that he can win in the midterms, is because he knows that.
I'm thinking, dude, you want to be president so bad. You can taste it. I want to be president. Call me president. Number one, you didn't fix your own state. Number two, you're letting Jasmine Crockett give you advice. Of all the Democrats in the world, you're letting Jasmine Crockett give you advice. That alone should disqualify Gavin Newsom from anything. You could have picked this person, that person, this person, and you picked Jasmine Crockett to be your consigliere. Good luck with that.
Democrats, it's not even about partisanship. It's about doing what's right. It's about doing the American thing. And to be clear, you can wave all the flags you want to, but I am telling you right now that the most unpatriotic people that we have in this country are MAGA and this president. We are the real patriots, and it is.
He nodded to that too. I had to keep that in. They're like, the most unpatriotic people are MAGA. Oh my gosh. What I found funny, and you guys may have missed it. Let me go back about 6 seconds, because some people find her so egregious. You may have missed this, and I want you to hear this again. Okay, listen to this.
Are MAGA and this president. We are the real patriots. It's not even about partisanship. It's about doing what's right. It's about doing the American thing. And to be clear, you can wave all the flags you want to, but I am telling you right now that the most unpatriotic people that we have in this country are MAGA and this president.
Did you catch it? Okay, so let me say what she just said. You can wave all the American flags you want. You mean showing your patriotism makes you unpatriotic. Her words, not mine. You can wave all your flags all you want, but you're the most unpatriotic people you'd ever meet. Yet none of you wave any flags. And I'm like, okay, here it is again. Black is white, white is black, up is down is up. It's complete helter-skelter. Waving your flag means you are unpatriotic. Says nobody ever. And he sat there and nodded. I would cut this and use it as a campaign video against him. He's like, yeah, you're right. The people waving the flags are unpatriotic, And the people who don't ever wave an American flag and really don't care about the American flag, they're the patriotic ones. How do you even say that? How does that even come out of your lips?
Are the real patriots, and it is time for us to take our flag back and show people what America is about. You can't say that you love the Constitution while decimating it with every single stroke of a pen for an executive order, while decimating it, while you are disrespecting our troops that have signed up to protect our freedoms, not just here but abroad, and then you're taking people's freedom.
A sitting member of Congress whose only job is to make America better, whether she'll ever say those words or not, to do what's best for the American people, who takes an oath in front of the flag. What do you mean take the flag back? It's you're there. You're the person upholding the flag. Who are you going to take it back from? You're a sitting member of Congress. She got in this role, and I don't think she understood what the words were that were coming out of her mouth. Honey, who are you taking the flag away from? If you're a sitting member of Congress, you're pretty much a flag bearer, or at least you're supposed to be.
The way using those exact same troops.
Unreal. Simply unreal. They get in this feverish pitch and they start spewing venom and they can't stop and don't realize what the hell they're saying. Reclaim the flag? What country do you think you're a congressperson for? This guy here, next guy up, is the head of the Democratic National Committee. Now, as you hear him, you may have to pay attention again, because he's probably going to talk about, and you should expect him to talk about, what the Democrat National Committee is going to do to help American lives. What's their platform? Here you go.
Democrats should shut the government down if the president continues to use the Justice Department to go after his enemies, or if he keeps National Guard troops in the streets.
Yes, you have a fascist in the White House, and that requires us.
So I think this woman from MSNBC was trying to get one of these guys to say something smart. And Garcia, before him, didn't say anything. And this is the head of the Democrat National Committee. So, should we shut the government down? And the answer should have been, we should try everything we can possibly do not to shut it down, because it would hurt the American people. Yes, we should shut it down because he's a fascist.
We cannot be the only one playing by the rules with the hand tied behind our backs. That old playbook, the norms that, used to have guardrails on our democracy and protect all of us in this country, that doesn't exist anymore. We've got to throw that playbook out the window because the Republicans have. We cannot be the only party that's playing by the rules anymore. That's why I said...
We are the only... It hurts to say it. The Democrats are the only party playing by the rules. And I don't even have to go into that, because I'm sure every one of you can go and just count on your hands the number of things these people have been doing over the last couple of years. But they're the only... We're the victims here. This fascist Nazi guy, he's the one breaking the rules. We've been playing all by the rules all along. Okay. Let's say that's even true. Whatever you're doing ain't working. And so maybe that's why he's saying, we're not going to do it anymore. Okay, so it's a big change. Now it scares me. If you've been playing along and you've been following the rules, and now you're not going to follow the rules, oh hell. What are we looking forward to at this point? That's what you need to think of. If they think they've been the upstanding party, we've been towing the line. We've been doing what we're supposed to. But now, in 2025, we're going to throw it out because we have to, because of Nazis. Be afraid. Instead of saying we're throwing our playbook out because it didn't work, we're throwing it out because we need to do worse.
This isn't your grandfather's Democratic Party where you bring a pencil to a knife fight. We are bringing a bazooka to a knife fight. Donald Trump...
I don't know what to tell you. I keep telling you, get some gold, get some silver, get a pew-pew, make sure you got ammo. They're telling you, straight up. I know he's trying to be metaphorical. He's trying to draw an analogy, but he's dead serious. They're ready to fight us. They're ready to come at us. They're ready to take what we have. They don't care. Caution is being thrown to the wind, and people aren't taking these people seriously.
Wanted a showdown. The Republicans want a showdown. We're going to give it to them. And guess what? We don't have power in the Congress. That's for sure. But we have the power of our voices. We have the power of our platforms to move public sentiment. And the public sentiment is moving our way. Yes, it's...
What chart is he looking at? The public sentiment is moving our way. Every poll says the Democrats are in the toilet. They have been outgained monetarily almost by 6 or 7x in terms of what the Republicans now have on hand in cash and what the Democrats have on hand in cash. There's no metric, none, that says people want more of what you guys are selling. So the delusion that these people are under is incredible.
Oh, yes, people still want to see more fight. I'm not going to ignore that. But at the end of the day, I can tell you there are people, including myself. I've been in 30 states over the last 6 months, Laura, and I'm going to continue to travel this country to organize people in every part of this country to stand up to this dictator in chief.
But what do you want to do for America? I mean, you're the head of the Democrat National Committee. Do you have any strategy to help Americans in life? Nope. Every single one of these videos that I picked, all they talk about is fighting, going after, stop Trump, which means stopping you. Let's not pussyfoot around here. They don't like the life that you're living. They don't like the life that you even want to aspire to live. None of that is satisfactory to them. They don't want you to have better gas prices. They don't want you to have lower interest rates. They don't want you to be able to enjoy a trip. Even, what did he just say? He went to England. Oh my God, he can't go to England. He need to go to Lake George. Go to Lake George. Yeah, that's where you need to be. Well, damn, if I want to take Robin back to Rome or something, I'm going. I want to live this life. I want to be happy and do everything that God can bless us with. And you got these parties just angry misfits. Wow. Here comes another one.
I ask you about redistricting in California. It's moving full steam ahead in Texas, and in response, things are moving along in California. Republicans have filed a legal challenge in California, but it could very well make it to voters to sign off on if this moves ahead in November. At the very same time, the governor has taken it upon himself to transform his social media kind of as part of this into very specifically spending all of its time mocking Donald Trump by mimicking his social media style. I mean, you can just see some of the posts of the memes and the things that they've been putting.
Now understand, I have never been involved in any athletic endeavor where they said to make sure you follow what the other guy is doing and do what he's doing. Nope. I've been in boardrooms and people like, hey, they're doing this. Why don't we try that? And the smart people in the room, well, then you become them. Why don't you look at what they're doing and do it better? Oh, yeah, hey, there's an idea. I never want to, I've mentioned this in real estate, I never want to catch a falling knife. I can't out-discount you. That's ridiculous. I can't say, oh, they've lowered their prices down 20%. Oh, we should lower it to 25. Why? Because they went 20, and we'll be better if we're 25. How about we just raise ours 5%? Yeah, how about we show people the value of what our product is? Because if we show them the value, we can warrant charging more money. Why do people buy Rolexes? You can buy a Timex watch at Walmart for $25. But other people will go spend $30,000, $40,000 on a watch. They didn't lower their price. It's like if you want it, you can afford it, you're going to buy it. Oh, But Timex discounted their wash. I don't give a shit what Timex did. I don't want to copy them. I want to be better. And so what they're showing you is that even in marketing, they have no clue. Just because Walmart lowers its prices doesn't mean that JCPenney should lower its prices. There's got to be somebody who sits back and goes, we have the better product. We don't have to reduce our prices. But they don't know that.
Have been put out. What is your... I'm seeing a lot of Democrats applauding this approach by Gavin Newsom, but is...
And this one was ridiculous because Kid Rock gave him the middle finger. You used a meme of Kid Rock to support Gavin Newsom, and the guy you put in the picture told you to go pound sand. That's not a winning strategy. It's not even funny.
Is this all about, more about his presidential aspirations than anything else? And if it is, are you okay with it?
It's a teaching moment. He's mirroring and reflecting what Donald Trump is doing. So to ask the country, is this who you want as your leader? Somebody who debates.
You know what? I'm going to clue you in, Eric. There's a bit of historical research you could do. You don't even need ChatGPT or Grok. You can go back to this thing called an election, and it can tell you what people want. I think what he's doing, he's realizing this is what the people want. No, they've already told you what they want. 70, 80 million people told you what they want. You got landslided. But let's try here because we're going to do some research and see what's going on. You don't need it. It was November. Just go back, look at the first week of November, see what happened. Do the game tapes. Watch the campaign rallies. See, that's how you learn, not by copying somebody.
Us and reduces the dialogue. And yes, I mean, it's silly, it's cheeky, but it also is going on offense. And it's something Gavin Newsom has done in the cases he's brought on immigration and the redistricting move that he's doing to level the playing field against the crooked way that Texas is trying to fix their maps. It's making Donald Trump react. And I think you can either be on...
What about Americans? How do you think Americans are reacting? You don't care. It's all about Trump is living rent-free in their heads. I mean, the theme of this segment is that he's just living in their heads. They're not even looking at the American people. It's silly. I don't ever want somebody to come up, if Ashley texted me, or if Robin after the show, or SV, or from Roaring, anybody said, you know what, that segment is silly. Oh, that means it's good, right? That's what he just said. I know it's silly. Well, then why are you doing silly shit? I don't get it. What marketing school did you get to find that? Hey, do silly stuff. Or worse, hey, Gavin, send out your advocates to tell everybody in the world that you're doing silly stuff. Good luck with that.
Your heels reacting to Donald Trump as he goes after the most vulnerable, or you can put him on his. And there's not many leaders right now, I think, on our side who are stepping up and going on offense, and Gavin Newsom is.
So interesting.
So part of his strategy is to send out an advocate to insult the other Democrats. There's nobody else out here who can do what Gavin Newsom's doing. Man, you must have a lot of friends at the cocktail parties. He just said, we don't have any other leaders. That's it? Gavin Newsom is it for you? Oh, boy. You're done.
Thanks for coming in. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Kate.
Oh, boy.
I think that...
Oh, my goodness. That's how lost these people are. That's why I said it was the foundering Democrat Party. You heard a number of times thus far where they don't even understand. They're so eager to get on these television shows, and they know they have free reign, that the person they're talking to is not going to ask them anything tough, and they can say stuff, and they still flub it. How do you say that the people waving the flags aren't patriotic, but the people who don't wave flags are the ones who are patriotic? How do you say it's silly? How do you say you ain't got any other leaders? And you say it on television where everybody has a tape right now. Oh, we don't have anybody else. There's no bench. There's nobody in the minor leagues. Nobody you can call up. That's it. It's Gavin Newsom, we're done. We don't have anybody. cool. Thank you for letting us know there's nobody else back there. Sad sack of people.
Democrats are hemorrhaging voters because they've chosen all the wrong constituencies. They seem to care more about illegal aliens than American citizens, violent criminals than law-abiding citizens, and the Palestinian flag more than the American flag.
That is not true, and that is
when you take those positions on things like that, people tend to run to the other party. And
is there one mainstream Democrat that said he likes illegal immigrants over?
And you know that's not necessarily
Chris Van
true.
Hollen? There's one.
New analysis.
Oh my goodness! Is there one mainstream Democrat who said that? Huh? you got time here? Because we could go through a lot of clips. If there's one mainstream Democrat. What's a mainstream Democrat? There's nothing mainstream about anybody in your party. It's insane. You heard all the banshees in the background. Oh no, that's not true. That's not true. We just watched you go do backflips over the Maryland man. We just watched you barge into ICE detention centers. We just watched you go down to Alligator Alley and make videos about how hot it is with big mosquitoes. What are you talking about? I don't see you in the city, Washington, D.C. right now, since it's the big subject. I don't see you walking up to the people in the hood. Walk into Washington, D.C. and go talk to some of the people. Hey, how you liking it? This is pretty good, yeah. Nobody got shot. Huh? Nobody? Nope, it's good, it's working. You see, if the Democrats were smart, if they had any smarts about them, they would advocate for Trump to do this. Hey, can you come to Detroit? Hey, can you bring that to Cleveland, Baltimore? Yeah, we'd like that. You know why if they were smart, they would do that? Because the more people, especially it being summertime, if you've never been to Baltimore and seen the Inner Harbor, it's flipping amazing. But now it's become a gang-infested hellhole. And so if you cleaned up the Inner Harbor the way it used to be, and right across the Inner Harbor is an amazing seaquarium. It is awesome. So if you flew into Baltimore and said, hey, we're going to spend some time here, bring the kids. Oh, look at the big boats. Oh, wow, the tall ships are in here. Oh, it's fantastic. And let's go over to the seaquarium. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, what's that? That's the Fisherman's Wharf Market. You can go in there and there's all kinds of seafood. Money. I mean, the idea is to drum up business for your community and your state. If you brought in 1 million people to visit the Inner Harbor, that's a whole lot of money. So it almost tells you at this point that these people don't have the best intentions for the people that they actually hold as their constituents. Because everything about it, if the Inner Harbor was nice and safe, then people may go, you know what, I might want to open a business here. Maybe I can open some seafood things here. Maybe I can do a boat rental where I can, take people rides through the harbor. Maybe I can buy a house. Maybe I can, do something. Maybe I want to move here. Nope. Leave it a war zone. Leave it as a war zone. And then wonder what's going on.
Democrats are losing millions of registered voters across our country, while Republicans have a net gain of 4.5 million in the last 5 years. You can see the trend across the country. These are the key battleground states. And
okay, so hold on. Let her finish talking. Then we shall talk. Okay.
Counties that we watch every election, all of them show a loss for the Democrats.
All right. So as you're looking at this, Nevada, steep, second deepest Democrat plunge. North Carolina, Dems plus 200, GOP lead now. Miami-Dade County, which was forever was blue. Now the entirety of South Florida. Palm Beach still kind of blue. Pennsylvania has been turning. Pennsylvania, Bucks and Pennsylvania, both of those are turning. You would think the Democrats would know the same data and see the shift that's happening and realize it's not working. I mean, if you went to a doctor and it said, hey, your blood pressure's up or you gained weight or whatever, you need to change. And these people are like, nope, Nothing's wrong. In fact, we're just going to eat more donuts. We're just going to keep smoking. We're going to drink everything we can. We're going to throw caution to the wind because we don't care. That makes you have to wonder, what do they care about? That's something that's been an enigma for me. I've tried to figure out for quite some time. What do these people care about? How is it that every one of us can see all these signs? We can hear the idiocy that comes out of their mouth. And we can see them advocating for war and advocating for crime. We can see it. And at the same time, we're going, okay, I'm trying not to be too biased with Trump. I'm trying to look at this objectively. I'm trying to say, you know, do they, and I do this. I often say, let me see if there's a point to what they're saying. You don't want the city to be cleaned up? And I actually took it a step forward. I'm like, okay, why would I not want the police presence to be stronger? None of it makes sense. And they don't bother explaining it. They just scream like banshees, like you heard during the press conference with Stephen Miller and JD and Pete Hegseth. Just said, ah! I'm like, what are you screaming about? You don't realize that you white people out there screaming, the only reason you could be standing out there is because you're safe. They don't even think about it. Hey, hey, JD, yeah, just tell all the cops to leave. Huh? Just bring them all in here and make sure we're okay. But tell everybody outside the cops are gone. And make an announcement. We're going to leave. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, staying out there with your watches and your pocketbooks and everything else that people can look at and go, okay, yep, I got you. Uh-huh. You're arguing and screaming and protesting under the very guise of the protection we are affording you. I feel like it's the movie A Few Good Men. I just want you to say thank you. Because that's what you should be doing to President Trump right now. The very nature of you being where you are, bitching up a storm, is because you have the safety to do it. Just say thank you. They don't even think that. Wait, so Barry, you're gonna hurt your brain? No, because it's my nature to be objective. And so when I saw people were complaining about the law enforcement, I actually sat down. Okay. I couldn't come up with anything. Didn't make any sense. I thought about me being there, and I'm like, okay, I probably might be okay. Then I thought about my wife being there solo, and I'm like, no. Then I thought about Ashley and the kids, and I'm like, no. Like, so why are we arguing against this? Because the presence? Because people might see them? What happens when you see a cop? You freak out? Not me. You see a guy from the Army in a Humvee? You freak out? No. What is it about y'all go, ah? It's like looking at vampires. Oh my God, there's cops out here. Oh no, there's military guy. No. I don't make no sense. So I tried. Okay. I know voters in Ohio have to approve redistricting. Let's see, Barry, the biggest issue with the Democrats is they lost their NGOs and USAID, and they can no longer extort money to line their pockets. Bingo. Absolutely bingo. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a day here right now and get ready for, go eat and get ready for the night show. I was going to do movie night. I may still do something tonight with a movie if I can find something, but I think it's going to be a big news day. I don't know why. I got this feeling like something's going to happen. I know President Trump was supposed to be signing executive orders. I'm not sure if he signed them yet. Look, let me hear. SV's not here today, so I'm looking to see if there's any new news about the executive orders. But I'm pretty sure that will be coming. Let me just show you guys one thing. It was pretty interesting. I was just making fun of the fact that people freaking out because they see cops. And Nick Sortor posted this video, which to me says so much. And it says, National Guard troops are only openly interacting with teens in D.C.'s Navy Yard, even letting them sit in the Humvees. One of the teens said, "The last time I was here, there was a shooting. I'm really hoping the newfound law and order in D.C. will inspire kids to take a better path." And let me start from the beginning. So the kids are hanging out, they're checking out the Humvee. They're not screaming. They're hanging out with the soldiers. Hey man, this is pretty cool. We're just out here. They don't look like they're having a bad reaction. People hanging out. Hey man, how you guys doing? Hey, nothing going on. Why is that bad? Kids, can we get in there? Can we go in? And the soldiers were being amenable, taking pictures for everybody. How is that bad? How? Somebody explain to me. Oh, by the way, those were young black kids too. It's an absolute crock, man. It's an absolute crock, and they've been teaching people so much animus that it's not even funny what they've done to kids. I blame the media and the Democrat politicians for continually lying to people and telling them how things are so bad that the MAGA and everybody else, all they want to do is hurt you, and they're racist and blah, 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 blah. I mean, are we going to be done with that? I hope we're at a point where we're going to be done with that, because it just doesn't make any sense anymore whatsoever. And you're hearing this from a black guy. All right, so let me go ahead and get these up. I can't donate on Rumble. Popped over here to show some love. Thank you very much. I never feel compelled to do that, but thank you. Lloyd, love your show, but come on, Smalls, you're with that wailing band. He's talking to, you want me to put her back on? She's sitting here warming up. I mean, she told me at any time she'd be ready to come on. And so, don't tempt me with a good time. She says she wants on. I got to find out her next show, and maybe we can get some people some concert tickets, and y'all can go see her. Mr. Wise Guy, USAID was created to help others in need throughout the world, forgetting Americans no more. America first. Exactly. That and to be a slush fund for the Democrat Party. Dirty Truck, moving soon. Save time and money your next truck with Diddy Truck. A pair from companies like, is that real? Diddy Truck. Elizabeth, thank you. Mr. Wise Guy, fanfare is Barry's voice. Fight. Tommy, what's going on? Redheaded bullcrap that'll be turned around too. Vielka, great move by Trump campaign to get JD out there on the stump for recognition and practice. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised how short his speech was, but right to the point for sure. And you can tell Atlanta or the whole Georgia area is going to be a hotbed. Penny, did he actually say JD Vance and family should have vacation day? Yeah, he said it. He said he should have went to Lake George or something. Whew. That's an argument point. Wow. Penny, Democrats haven't played by the rules since 2008. If then. Mr. Wise Guy, where'd that go? Mr. Wise Guy, in my company, challenged myself to go beyond others, taking on other specialities. Master mechanic. Wow, congrats. Penny again, what will the Democrats do if Trump gets awarded the Nobel Prize? Oh, more screaming, gnashing of the teeth for sure. Buddy Sanders, Proud Boys are a lot of legal immigrants with black and white people. True that. Just another knucklehead. Song request, Skinnerd, Freebird. Oh, the Oakland one? I played that. That was, we're starting to recycle people who are like, I didn't know you played music. Can you play Freebird? Yep, played it, but I'll play it again. Carmen Flores, Robin Chair is giving me the evil eye. Is it still looking at you? I look back there sometimes, and it's weird because it does look like two slits. I have to put like a tape and like a smiley face on it or something. That would be funny. All right, everybody. I'll see you at 7 or 7:30. I'll put up the announcement post so you guys can see it as well. Talk to you in a little while.